fire talent is be on time. That's what Commissioner Moore said.
No, he's putting words in my mouth.
Y'all better be careful
this morning,
now.
guys.
What's that?
I appreciate your patience this morning.
Are you
Yesterday
good?
I made that
Okay?
joke about.
You didn't break nothing?
I didn't break it.
Yesterday
Alright.
I made that joke about.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners meeting. We're great to have you. If you please stand with me for the invocation and the pledge. Father, we're grateful to be here this morning. We thank you for your wisdom and your strength. We ask that you continue to protect our first responders and those that are protecting us overseas in their deployments. Father, we ask you that America would continue to defeat terrorism wherever it lies, and that you would continue to strengthen those men and women that are protecting our country, both here and abroad. Father, we again ask you for wisdom as we deliberate the business of Marion County. We ask you for strength and mercy, grace for all of those of us that have different opinions. We ask you for strength around our country as people are enraged over issues. And Father, we ask you that as we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we will remember that we're united and not a divided country, that we have strength because of you, and that because of you, we can be united. We ask all these things by your grace and mercy in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great prayer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have just a few announcements as we get started. If you haven't already, please take your phones and silence them or turn them off. That'd be greatly appreciated. If not, when your phone rings, please head to the podium so we can hear your conversation.
And we'll likely want to participate in it.
Yeah, we
as
may
well.
want to participate. On August 22nd at 2 o'clock, that's today, we have our regularly scheduled zoning meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Date change for August 29th, 4 o'clock, the Transportation Planning Organization meets. September 5th, as you well know, most of you folks, that meeting has been canceled because of Labor Day, and we've shifted our budget schedule around a little bit. September 7th at 6:50 will be the public hearing to consider the adoption of the Rainbow Lakes Estates final budget for 2017-18. At 7 o'clock, we'll consider the final budget hearing for the rest of the budget. September 11th at 1, we have a public hearing to adopt the final resolution for fire, stormwater, and solid waste. The 19th, we have our next regularly scheduled county commission meeting, and at 2 o'clock, our next regularly scheduled zoning hearing. So that's kind of an update of our calendar and schedule. Commissioners, we have a few proclamations and presentations.
So moved.
Second.
Let's do the roll call first. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Chairman Zalek?
Here.
Vice Chairman Bryant?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Gold?
Here.
Commissioner Stone?
All right, now that we all know we're here, presentations and proclamations.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, first up we have the 35th Annual Shrine Rodeo by Mr. Reuben Lamb. Come on up, sir.
They're getting their hats on.
Getting their hats on. Gotta give them a second there.
Wherever you stand, I won't stand there.
Hey, stand on the end, Commissioner.
I'm gonna get you right there.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Well, great.
Ready to go.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome you all here with us today. We are so happy that you could take the time out of your mornings to spend this with us. And I think it's very, very important that it is pointed out that this year, the Ocala Shrine Club will present the 35th Annual Ocala Shrine Rodeo. And I think they need a big round of applause for that. And for those of you who are here with us today who don't know, that vision started 35 years ago with the man standing to my right, Mr. Reuben Lamb. And for 35 years, he has just very diligently put this rodeo on, and it has grown to be the event that it is today, where we will see I've got to be careful with the number that I state because the fire marshal's in here. we'll see thousands and thousands of people. They will go to the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion during Labor Day weekend to watch the performances that are put on. And if you've never been, you should definitely go, because not only is it a great event, but what the Shriners do is just awesome as well. And I'm going to read this proclamation, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to Reuben Lamb, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about it. All right, so with that, we have a proclamation by the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Florida. It says, whereas the Ocala Shrine Club, under the auspices of Morocco Temple, ancient Arabic order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, is dedicated to the goal of providing free medical treatment to physically challenged and burned children. And whereas there are approximately 250 children in the Marion County area presently receiving free care at Shriners Tampa Hospital or Cincinnati Burn Center. And whereas a major part of the needed support for this worthwhile cause can be obtained by sponsoring the 35th annual Ocala Shrine Rodeo, where cowboys ride to help children walk. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Florida, that August 27th through September 2nd, 2017 be designated as the 35th annual Ocala Shrine Rodeo Week. It's duly proclaimed this 22nd day of August 2017, signed by all 5 county commissioners and attested to by David Elsperman, clerk of the court. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Reuben. And once again, thank you all for all of the hard work that you do. There are a lot of volunteers who participate in this. There's a lot of work that goes into putting this event on, and it truly is an amazing event for our community. And we thank you for your vision 35 years ago.
And along the way, Kathy said something about me pushing. I've been a pain in the ass for 35 years, so I apologize for my language. But well, it took a little while to get it started. But I'd like to say this: on Friday night, Commissioner Bryant does us the pleasure of presenting the national anthem, and superb job. So we get to look forward to that every year. Along with that, the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion has been the home of the Ocala Shrine Rodeo all 35 years, and I want to say proudly that that is one of the finest facilities in the state of Florida. And the commissioners, we appreciate all y'all have done to make it in the state that is in it today. Thank you, and we appreciate all the guys coming out. If y'all can make it to the rodeo, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
And I have to say one more thing. So we all know that behind every man there's a good woman. Every successful man there's a good woman. And I have to do a shout out to Reuben's bride, Diana, because without her support over the last 35 years, we all know he couldn't do what he does. So she's not here this morning, but if she's watching, great job. Thank you.
All right. All right, if y'all come a little closer for a picture, and we'll get a couple of you guys on this side. No.
Y'all in the middle.
In the middle. Over there.
Sprinkle in here in between us all.
Don't shut out Commissioner Zaley.
Get him there. Look, Mr. Zaley and our matches there.
All right.
Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you guys. I'll see you out there Friday night. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Excuse me. I'm ready. Commissioner.
Thank you, buddy. All right. Yep. So we've got also the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So we have a couple folks in the audience, and I think Sharon's here from the Ocala Royal Dames. Come on down, Commissioner Moore. Yeah, we did that just for you.
For remembering.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, it's my pleasure to present on behalf of the Marion County Commission to the Ocala Royal Dames, and also Shands, I guess, accepts this kind of in coordination with this. Unfortunately, no one from Shands responded back when I kind of invited, but I gave them last minute, and they're out there saving lives, so they get the thing. But I'm going to present this to Ocala Royal Dames, which, by the way, is a great organization. 100% of every dollar they raise goes to cancer research. So it's a phenomenal organization, phenomenal thing. And if y'all don't know, my son is a cancer survivor. He had leukemia. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's how I met Miss Jank. Her daughter was next to my son in the hospital, so room side by side. So you meet some great people through it, but the thing is we need to support those who are trying to find a cure for cancer. And with that, I'll go into the proclamation. When you get to be my age, you got to put these down. It says, whereas cancer kills more children than asthma, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, congenital anomalies, and pediatric AIDS combined, and I know with those tongue twisters why Commissioner Zalk let me read this. Whereas childhood cancer crosses all racial, ethnic, and social boundaries, and whereas cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among U.S. children between infancy and age 15, and the disease is detected early in nearly 15,000 children in the U.S. each year, and whereas different types of cancer behave differently, they grow at different rates, respond to different treatments. That is why children with cancer need treatment that is aimed at their particular kind of cancer. And whereas because of the major treatment advances in the recent decades, more than 80% of children with cancer now survive at least 5 years or more, and overall this is a huge increase since the mid-1970s when the 5-year survival rate was less than 60%. And whereas treatment side effects can last for a lifetime for these kids, and whereas the Marion County Board of County Commissioners encourages its citizens to go for gold for the month of September, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Florida, that the month of September 2017 is designated as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, duly proclaimed this 22nd day of August 2017, signed by all 5 county commissioners and attested to by David Delchman, Clerk of the Courts.
I want to thank the county commissioners and David Moore for your leadership in bringing the awareness that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I do want to thank you for leading that and for all that you do for bringing the awareness. And the Ocala Royal Dames and UF, the doctors that they invited down here today, not only are taking care of cancer patients, they have their own research projects that they go to right afterwards. They are putting 24 hours a day in trying to find a cure for these children. So I understand that they're not here, and I accept this also on their behalf.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you so much, Marion. All right, now we have a presentation by our wonderful St. John's Water Management and Gail and all of our water folks.
Good morning, I'm Christine Brabick with Marion County Utilities. On behalf of Marion County Utilities, I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the St. John's River Water Management District, including Joy Cokejohn, Lou Donangelo, and James Troiano, for guidance through the application process and making this cost share funding opportunity a reality. The purpose of this project is to reallocate groundwater withdrawals away from Silver Springs, thus reducing the county's impact on the springs. This is the second of 4 projects designed to reduce groundwater withdrawals near the springs by supplying water from our southern water systems. By reallocating groundwater withdrawals from Spruce Creek Golf and Country Club to the Stonecrest water system through a 2-mile pipeline connecting the 2 systems, Marion County is able to bolster the district's initiative of maintaining the minimum flows and levels at Silver Springs. The county will be receiving a 50% price match, 25% from the St. John's River Water Management District, and 25% from FDEP to construct this $1.4 million potable water interconnect. The project consists of constructing approximately 2 miles of 16-inch water main along the US 441 corridor, providing fire hydrants throughout the corridor. This interconnect is one phase of an overall project that will allow the county to reduce groundwater withdrawals near Silver Springs. Again, I would like to say thank you to the district for making this project possible. Marion County Utilities looks forward to partnering with you on this project and future projects to work towards a common goal of improving Florida's water systems. Thank you.
And while the Utilities Department is working on reducing water withdrawal impacts to Silver Springs, our projects are taking care of nitrogen going to the springs. Our project involves modifying retention pond bottoms with Bold and Gold, and this is an engineered soil product using sand, clay, and tire crumb. I have a sample if anyone would like to see it. Bold and Gold is specifically designed to remove nitrogen from stormwater infiltrating into the aquifer and coming out of the springs, and it gets over 70% removal of the total nitrogen. Compare this to our high infiltrating ponds that only get 5% reduction of nitrogen. So it's a big deal. This project deals specifically with 174 acres, removing 218 pounds of total nitrogen from the aquifer. We've done 8 ponds to date. There's 2 ponds as part of this project. We have 26 more ponds in design. 10 of those will be constructed in this next fiscal year. So we would also like to thank St. John's and DEP for their cooperative efforts in springs protection. But we would also like to thank the commissioners, Munir and Tracy, for their continued support of springs protection.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good morning. My name is Jim Troiano, and I am the Intergovernmental Coordinator for the St. Johns River Water Management District. And today you heard about great programs for a gym that you have here in Marion County to protect Silver Springs and our overall quality of water. And so this is something that's very important to us at the Water Management District. First, I'd like to compliment staff. They did an outstanding job. Their applications were flawless. They moved through the processes very well. And the cooperation that we had with staff is just outstanding. And it's going to continue in the future for great projects that we're looking at. And I urge them to continue looking at next year for our cost share programs. And if I may, from a cost share perspective, $21.3 million in cost share monies awarded by our district, by our governing board in June to 43 recipients in our 18 counties. And I certainly appreciate the leadership of this organization being there in June to wish on good luck for our district and their awarding of these projects. But that's $2.5 million coming back to Marion County, a little over $525,000 from a district standpoint to give back to the county, not to include what the Florida Department of Environmental Protection will provide. And so it's just a great working relationship to see that kind of money's coming back for these great programs. So on behalf of our district, all of our employees, our governing board, our executive director, Dr. Ann Shortell, it is my honor today to present to you, Mr. Chair, and to the commission 2 checks. One for Marion County Utilities in an amount of $353,248 for the US 441 Water Main Interconnect. And then an additional $171,616 for the DRA for Silver Springs Shores. So overall, job well done, and congratulations to you and your team and our cooperation that we have now, but for our water and for our citizens for the future. So thank you very much. And if I may come forward to make these presentations to you.
Tracy right there.
Commissioner Moore, smile.
One more.
Thank you so much.
Wait.
One more, sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
ready?
your office.
Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Really appreciate you coming out and making that presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Good job, guys.
Thank you so much.
You guys were hurting me out. It's just nice.
You're never going to quit hurting.
All right, now next we have our Next presentation for the Marion County Jail and Community Program by the Public Policy Institute, and Mr. Steve Spivey. Come on down, sir. If you'll grab the lectern. Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Spivey. I'm a resident of Marion County. I'm here individually and as a representative of the Public Policy Institute of Marion County. And I have, the topic I'm here today on is one that I have briefed each of you individually previous to this. And so the purpose of today's presentation is really a very brief overview, and I would like to allocate as much of the time that's been dedicated to me for purposes of answering questions. I also have brought with me today Catherine Burns. Catherine, if you'll stand up, please. Catherine Burns is now retired, living in Dunellen. She is the originator of the Jacksonville Reentry Program, ran that program from 2003 to 2006 to 2016 when she just retired. She designed that program, built it from the ground up, and is here to assist me to answer any questions I cannot. This is the Jail to Community Transition Program. Where do I point? Okay. Technologically challenged here.
You can do it.
Hopefully I haven't yet earned Mr. Reuben Lamb's self-described moniker before this commission, but on this subject. Okay, here we go. So transition from jail to community. What we recognized in the Public Policy Institute study of the true cost of justice in Marion County is that there is a relatively small group of people within the Marion County population that tend to cycle in and out of our jail. We have a 80% recidivism rate at the jail, which unfortunately is not all that different than some of the other jurisdictions. So what we're going to talk about briefly, the design of this program is to get community involvement between law enforcement, providers, and local leadership to provide a comprehensive approach to identify individuals who are high risk of reoffending, get these people to some services while they're still incarcerated, follow up with a case management plan for when they are released. And most importantly, this is an evidence-based program by the a national, help me out, National Institute of Corrections program. And so it's designed so that there are some very specific performance metrics which will allow us to constantly monitor how this program is going. The way this program works is they screen individuals, they do an assessment, an individual assessment, they do a transition plan for these people, they specifically target certain interventions depending on what their needs are, and then there's an aftercare plan when they are released. Intervention begins in the jail through the booking process, and it is as you can see, there's a follow-up the entire time they're incarcerated, and interventions are specifically tailored to the individual. Some of the questions that I got from the commission and probably will get today is, what is the participation level of this program required of the Sheriff's Department? One of the things that we're asking the Sheriff's Department to do on this is there's a screening for risk reoffending, and the proxy screener is administered at booking, and this is deceptively simple but incredibly accurate. We only ask that they ask 3 questions. What was your age at first arrest? How many times you've been arrested? And what's your current age? And based on the answers to those 3 questions, believe it or not, there is a proxy score tool that is used to assign the risk of those individuals reoffending based on the answers to those questions. Incredibly accurate and incredibly simple. We're looking at individuals who have at least 3 months left on their sentence because of the participation programs that are required while they're still incarcerated, and they all must volunteer to participate. So when you look at each of the individuals who volunteers for this program, meets the selection criteria, volunteers for this program, is then assessed. They have an individual assessment. We look at their education, their substance abuse issues, their employability skills, things of that nature. The idea here, folks, is to help these folks with some behavior modification classes while they're in jail. Once they get out of jail, we want them to have a safe place to live, a job opportunity, and some follow-up case management to make sure that there's some accountability to what they're doing once they're released. I won't go through all of this. These are some of the factors that they look at and in assessing the risk, and also what particular program recommendations would be made for the individual. The assessment provides a roadmap for their treatment. Most of these people have substance or alcohol abuse problems. Some of them have anger management issues. Some of them have sex offender issues. But this assessment provides a basic plan for their case plan while they're in jail and once they're released. It provides benchmarks to evaluate the risk and the need reduction and the progress they have in the program. So this assessment is linked to case management and targeted interventions. And so each inmate is assessed. We assign pre-release programs to them and then post-release aftercare. These are some of the things that are implemented both pre and post-release. The Thinking for a Change is a nationally recognized cognitive behavioral therapy program. That is something we'd like everyone to complete before they are released. That is one of the reasons why we have a 3-month minimum on your sentence. It's going to take that long to get them through that program. And then we have a lot of community participants who are willing to help with this aftercare piece for safe housing, employment opportunities, and things of that nature. So we've got a big community buy-in. If this program is approved, we would have memorandums of understanding with each of those individuals. And this is basically how they go through this process. The low risk folks are reoffending. We'll send them out with a resource pack and a referral for some post-release services, special courts, things of that nature that are already in place. The medium and high risk people are really the folks we're targeting. They're the highest risk of reoffending. We want to get them a safe place to live, a job. We want to provide job training when that is available. We want these people to become productive members of society. We want them to be paying taxes, paying child support, paying for their cost of incarceration and things like that, and reduce this recidivism rate. So post-release case management, there's a mental health component. We have the centers here in the county that's willing to give us a very favorable rate on substance abuse, anger management, batterers intervention programs, sex offender assessments. Once again, we have vendors who are willing to provide transitional housing, clothing, food, hygiene kits. These people all have identification, official identification issues, either in driver's license or Florida IDs. That's a big barrier to some of these people. And then we have a whole community of support groups that are willing to help these folks. Case management will also get them connected to VA benefits, medical, SSI, food stamps, and things of that nature. So post-release is emerging of this JTC model and the transition from prison to community model. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. 81% of the people who participated in this program were success. And success being defined under the JREC model as any arrest for any offense within 365 days of release. These folks do not, 81% of these people don't get rearrested for anything. And so they have reduced the recidivism rate at the Duval County Jail by in excess of 48%, which is a big deal. Now, let's talk about the things that are most important, and that concludes the slide presentation. I've talked to each of you about the sheriff's participation and what's required of them. We have had some discussions with the sheriff's office, but we haven't had any complete agreement on these issues. But what we're going to ask for is that they ask those 3 questions, put those into the database when people are admitted to the jail, give the program staff access to the facility to be able to teach the classes they need to teach, to do the assessments they need to do pre-release case management work that they need to do. And then the third, and probably the most difficult administratively, is it is important for this group of people who volunteer for this program to be isolated if possible. And what I mean by that is not in a separate facility, but it would require some administrative reorganization within the jail population so that, if possible, one section of one pod would be available for all the people who have volunteered to be in this program. And that's a big ask. The rest of it, I think, is probably reasonable. Obviously, any pre-release program is going to require access to by the staff. And so, you're going to be very much interested in tracking the data to make sure these people are not reoffending. The best source of that data is going to be the jail census that's run, so the staff would need to be have access to that information as well. I have provided a budget, and the budget is based between services and provided and staff salaries. And this is the good news about that. First of all, this is a fee for service provision. So those services that we're providing, those will really dictate by how many people are participating in the program. I think this is something historically, Ms. Burns can validate that their program started a little bit small and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. It's still ongoing now. But as far as the staffing goes, as all of you know, I have presented before on the possibility of the Department of Corrections. They are planning to and will open a Department of Corrections transition portal in Marion County. They put out a request for proposal that was not responded to in a manner that they deemed to be favorable. As a result of that, they are looking for partners to implement that grant. It's about $900,000 over 3 years. I've been in a lot of discussions with the principals there at the Department of Corrections over the last month. They are very much interested in meeting with some designated group or the commission as a whole in a workshop environment. They're very much interested in partnering with Marion County in this jail to community transition program, because they're parallel track programs. They do almost the same things, and the DOC has indicated to me that they would be happy to purchase services from a jail to community transition program. And what does that translate into? Them picking up maybe 50% of the cost of this program on an annualized basis. There's a big overlap in the population groups between the jail to community program and the folks who qualify for the DOC grant. Anybody that's ever been convicted and gone to the Department of Corrections qualifies. We have people in the jail who are on violations of probation. As they reoffend, they go back to jail, but they've been DOC inmates before, and so they all qualify for this money. So we have a significant partner in the Department of Corrections that's interested in working out an arrangement with the county so that these two programs can run parallel track. And the Department of Corrections, rather than setting up an individual program themselves, are going to buy services from our program if it gets off the ground. So, and with that, I'll conclude. Anyone has any questions, hopefully either myself or Ms. Burns can answer.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Bryant.
Judge Spivey, I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
You tracked them during that 365-day period for recidivism.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any data after that 365-day period?
Yeah,
And Ms. Burns, you'll have to come to the podium.
Yeah. You have to introduce yourself.
Name and address, please.
My name is Catherine Burns. I'm a Marion County resident. And Duval County only tracks annually, year to year. That's how the sheriff's office tracks the recidivism. So any arrest, even if the charges were dropped within 360 days, is considered recidivism. So they just track annually.
Okay. And you'll have to give your address for the record.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
20181 Short Tower Way, Dunellen, Florida.
Thank you. So, Ms. Burns,
34432. Yes.
can you talk to us also, the success after people have gone through some of the before they get out of jail type stuff, and the hardest part is getting people out of an environment typically when they go back home, right? I mean,
That's correct.
That's probably one of the bigger challenges, or having identification, being able to get a job. I mean, we can list off some common sense things we can see from the top level, but what has been your experience, and help us understand how people can be more successful coming out of jail because of this program?
Well, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of need, or even you and I, if all of a sudden we found ourselves with no money and nowhere to live and no job and a felony offense, which precludes us from finding employment in many arenas, we would definitely have a hard time being successful. So the whole idea behind a reentry portal is to help an individual that seeks change. We know that we can't make someone change. This is a voluntary program. If you desire to change, the case managers and the support of the reentry portal are there to do that specifically. It's very critical, though, that we recognize that many individuals, as Steve Spivey has already said, have a mental health or substance abuse addiction issue. So addressing that issue is very critical so that we keep that individual stabilized. In addition to that, we also know, just recognize the opioid crisis that's in our country, that individuals that are being released sometimes have just, been sober for a short period of time. So having that substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, along with Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a place to live and employment, all of those things coupled together help the individuals become stabilized. Many of them, when they're done with the program after 3 months, no, they may not have to answer to you on a monthly basis, but they stay in touch on a regular basis with their case managers. We also created mentor programs to wrap around services for individuals that were seeking that. It's a very comprehensive program, and it does work. The evidence is there to prove that it does work.
Yeah, I've heard about Duval County for how many years now?
Yeah,
and you guys have done obviously some trademark work there, and so we appreciate that, because I've heard it all around the state of Florida about Duval County's program, and obviously you've done a terrific job and gotten some great results. Are there things in Marion County that will present further challenges because it's a little different? Or do you think the challenges are pretty much
one of the challenges
similar?
there may be, because Marion County is a little bit more rural than Duval County. Okay. Duval has a bus system throughout the entire county because it's a consolidated county. So that may be a little bit problematic in regards to individuals be able to get back to the portal if they live in one of the outlying areas within the community. So that could be a little bit more challenging than Duval County that has a comprehensive bus system.
Okay.
It's also very critical that you work very closely with the Florida Department of Corrections, Probation and Parole. So those that are under community supervision, we work hand in hand with them, because it's very helpful for a probation officer to have a case manager to talk to, especially when issues arise, to say, can you help me address this issue with this client? So it's a working hand in hand. And just to follow up, even though you didn't ask the question, the needs of the individuals coming out of the county jail, as Steve Spivey has already said, and those coming out of the state are very, very similar. So you're not creating a new program either or. What we did in Jacksonville was provide services for those coming out of the jail in conjunction with those coming out of the state.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, any other questions? We have these folks here.
Some comments, maybe.
Sure, come on up. How are you?
Major Clint Bowen with the Marion County Sheriff's
Stay
Office.
here. Yeah. Hey.
I am the Bureau Chief of the Detention Bureau. Of course, first and foremost, it's the impact to the security side of the jail operation. If we're required to open another housing unit, there's going to be a great impact in manpower. We can't sustain that with existing manpower, which in turns would come into funding for those sources. And there may be some additional impact. The program requires 3 months. We do have some inmate population that may qualify in those areas that are there for 3 months, but the average length of stay at the jail is 42 days. So, and we're all inclusive with what we hold as far as criminal people that are arrested. So those are felons and misdemeanors. We have a very extensive inmate program now. We have approximately 12 to 14 inmate programs that we offer. We also have religious programs. The comparison between the statistics of 80%, that's all inclusive of every inmate that's ever been in the Marion County Jail. Those inmates that means ever. If you've ever been arrested, 80% recidivism rate comes out to about 80%. And that's pretty consistent through most jails in the state. But if you look at the comparison between inmates that were arrested annually or released and returned within a year, as in Duval County, our numbers are not 80%, they're less than 20%. I thought that would be that's important for us to know when in this consideration. Additionally, going back to the manpower issue, it would require us to hire 12 more additional corrections officers, detention deputies, is what we refer to them at, and 8 more detention assistants. And those numbers are pretty high as far as the financial impact of that.
So, Major, why would you need to hire anybody differently?
We'd be forced to open another housing unit.
So, the way we were looking at it before is I was under the assumption that through some organizational moving around, we would be able to put them in an existing pod, not have to open it up.
We have an existing pod, but we don't have the manpower to open the pod.
I understand that, but within the current system, we couldn't move folks around in order to create some separation?
No, sir. You wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay.
There's personnel required to open. It's about the footprint of the jail. That's a completely closed, unmanned area of the jail that they would have to go to, and that would require approximately 20 additional staff.
Okay. Yes.
What would a roundabout cost be of that? For
It would be over $1.2 million.
And the reason you can't move the staffing is because you have minimum mandatories per prisoner?
It's not minimum mandatories, but the
or minimum. I'm sorry.
By jail design, you have to have the manpower.
Minimum staffing.
In those
minimum
posts.
Staffing.
Yeah, they're separated into different posts, and you have to have that manpower is already obligated to those posts.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yep, Commissioner Snow.
Thank you. How many people are in a section now? How many inmates?
We have 2 different designs. We have the section we're talking about would be 192 inmates in that housing unit.
So
Is that in the total pod or in each section?
In the total pod.
In the total pod.
So I think this was, from my understanding, was going to be in sections, and there'd be approximately 20 people. I don't know if you have sections
Yes, ma'am.
that
It
are
would,
supervised.
that section would hold up to 36
Okay.
inmates.
So a section that you have today, my thoughts were that you would look at a section that's there today, move out those that are not participating, bring in those that are, up to 36. So your manpower wouldn't change, but you would be able to isolate this particular group.
Right.
Right, but that, we don't have that section available. We currently have 113 inmates on temporary bunks that normally they wouldn't be in. We've moved them out into the day room areas and increased throughout the jail. So there's 113 people on temporary bunks now.
But is there a section that's only 36 people in there that's being supervised?
Yes, ma'am.
That's where I'm talking about what you have currently today. You're going to take out that 36 and you're going to bring in the participants. So if it's a one-on-one, we don't know how
If
many.
the classification allows for that.
Right.
If you could identify 36 inmates that are classified the same, that you could, a group, say this group is, and they all fit the bill, then you could possibly do that. Yes, ma'am.
I think that is my understanding, that we would start that way,
That's certainly the goal, right?
The goal.
The goal is to
if we were able to.
not
do
have to
that.
man another pod or another
Yeah, not-
full-out piece of it, so.
Thank you.
I can
But
provide,
it needs here, we're not gonna solve this today.
I can
in
provide
this
some history
situation.
to that.
Right, but what we need to do is get together as a group, I think is the best idea, and look at it, get the commission side, the Public Policy Institute side and the sheriff side, and sit down, go over it, show us the jail, show us how we could do it, ask some questions, figure it out, and see if it's possible to move forward, because at the end of it, if we can get some really great results, that's awesome, so.
One last question, Major. What's the current ratio to inmates to employee or corrections?
The only
corrections officer?
mandated ratio we have is with our pre-adjudicated youth.
What is currently in a pod? How many corrections officers do you have per pod? How many inmates are in the pod?
By design, it would require 3 detention deputies in the pod and 2 detention assistants in the older parts of the
And how many inmates are in the pod?
192 in that
So
area.
you got
of the
about
jail.
3 for every 109. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're good? Any other questions?
Yes.
All right. So I think the best thing, let's host a little meeting. Yeah, I'll help get that started. Let's get all the folks together. Monir, set that up for me. We'll have a little debrief, come over to you, Major. Maybe you can show us more about the jail, figure out how we can just kind of walk through some different items, and then bring it back for a workshop with the board.
Mr. Chair,
I
I would think it would be very advantageous for the commission to go over and go through the jail with Major Bowen, so that he can show us exactly what he's talking about, so we really have an understanding, because I think that it's not, I think there's more to it than what we're understanding, and as far as the limitations they have over there, and then, staffing.
Right, and they got
need to
and they
understand
got a
that.
bunch of different rules that they have to
Yeah.
abide by, and
Yes.
separations, and so.
The Sheriff's Office and the Detention Bureau, we're always interested in helping the community in any way, but my concern is that it would be an impact to staff and an impact which in turn will be the impact to the
Right.
budget. And we're not,
And we have to be cognizant of that.
if
because then-
we obligate ourselves to that, and that's certainly a potential.
Sure.
And it's been a while since I've been over there for a tour.
Yeah, I haven't been
One
over in a
last
while,
question, how many inmates do we have? What's our population today?
14 this morning,
14.
12, 14.
100.
12, 14.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, guys.
One last suggestion, if I may. If you, when you're talking about this, Judge Lant has worked extensively before the current sheriff. we spent probably 6 months working on, this is the biggest challenge, obviously, for the Sheriff's Department is this organizational issue. We spent a lot of time working with the folks who were administering the jail at the time. And there was about 6 months worth of work and analysis that went into that to demonstrate feasibility of it, whether it was feasible or not. I think that was their conclusion. But it was a complicated matter for a lot of reasons everybody's already cited. But I would strongly recommend that you include Judge Lant in any of that workshop discussion, because he has a legacy of all of that work that has been done in that effort. Okay?
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this morning.
Monier, we need to do that this next week.
Okay, so we need to hold a
And then we'll get a
stakeholders
workshop.
type meeting
Yeah,
from the
stakeholder meeting.
BCC. It will be you, Commissioner Zhao.
That's fine.
Okay, and the other stakeholders from the sheriff, the PPI, and the court system.
And it'd probably be good for Commissioner Gold to follow up as well.
You'll also want to make sure there's time for the tour, everybody to get over there who hadn't.
You want me to schedule individual meeting to go do the
Well,
tour?
yeah, people are gonna have to do that individually, probably, so.
Because if we don't
Yeah.
do it, we're gonna have to sunshine it, and I don't
Yeah.
think the
Yeah.
sheriff's office wants everybody from the public.
That's gonna be, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
One last question.
sure. You gotta come to the mic though, Judge, please, if you don't mind.
One last question. Is this something you want to do preliminary to any meetings with the Department of Corrections?
They can run their, if we're looking at this
Yes.
budget year, everything's gonna have to run in conjunction quickly.
Okay.
If we wanna do anything this fiscal year.
I'll provide the contact information for Mr. Mahoney, who's the Director of Reentry Services for the Department of Corrections.
Yeah, I don't know what I will meet with them about at this time without a clear direction from the board where we're gonna go.
Well, it's gonna have to run in conjunction, so.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
So, all right, we'll work on it. Thank you, Judge, we appreciate it. Thank you, Mrs. Burns. All right, let me catch up where we're at here. All right, next we have the constitutional officers and government agencies. Ms. Erin Hess, good morning.
Good morning. So you brought somebody with you.
I brought a couple somebodies.
I see that.
Couple of somebodies.
Today.
I think you can tell that tall guy behind you, he can just go ahead and leave.
just go ahead and
No,
sit.
I'm kidding.
So good morning, Erin Hess, Administrator of Florida Department of Health in Marion County. It's been my honor and pleasure to serve for the last couple of years, and I made a commitment a few months ago that I would not step away until I felt the right person to take the reins was located. And so I'm honored today to be able to present Mark Lander for your concurrence appointment. Oh, he's on this side of me, sorry. For concurrence of appointment as the next administrator for the Florida Department of Health here in Marion County. Monier and Commissioner Bryant had the opportunity to interview him, as did Kurt Broman with the hospital district. And I think we were all in agreement that Mark brings about 30 years of experience of public health to the table. He's got a background in environmental health, water and soil, which is big issues here in Marion County. He understands operations, the business side of the Florida Department of Health, and could really take the department to the next level here in Marion County. So, I also have the Deputy Secretary, Paul Myers, with us today, also the Administrator in Alachua County, if you have any questions.
Excellent.
I want to let Mark come up and introduce himself and say a few words.
That could be dangerous. I've been told I've had the right to remain silent, not the ability. So, opening the microphone up, I just want to say that I'm extremely excited about this opportunity to serve this commission in our community. I think.
Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark Lander. The address is 24190 Northwest 160th Avenue, High Springs. Thank you. But, as Aaron said, I've got 27, 28 years of public health experience in a variety of fields. Started in environmental health, went to business and finance, am now the administrator up in Columbia and Hamilton County. I've had the opportunity to work in both rural and urban settings. I spent over 10 years at the Alachua County Health Department. Picked up some really great experience over the time, and I see what's going on and all the opportunity we have here in Marion, and I just feel it's very well suited to my background, and I'm just really excited about getting the chance to meet with each of you individually and get your ideas for how we can take public health further inside our community.
All right.
Any questions?
No, thank you for being here this morning, Commissioner Bryant.
Welcome. And we're as sad as we are to see Erin go. We're happy that you're going to be here with us, and we look forward to our partnership that we have. and, you know, being able to assist each other in any ways that we can.
Yeah, huge footsteps to fill, but Aaron and I are going to stay in close contact.
I'm sure.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. Congratulations and welcome to Marion County.
Thank you, sir. I look forward to working with y'all.
All right.
And Aaron, it's been a pleasure to have you work with us over the last couple of years, and we wish you well on your next endeavor.
I appreciate it.
And we hope that you've enjoyed your time here.
Absolutely.
And we hate
Many
to see
of you are
go.
my Facebook friends, so we will stay in touch, and you'll see me again. No
Very
concerns
good.
there. So
Thanks, Aaron.
thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, so we had one more item that got moved down to the administrator, but it's actually under the clerk. So, Mr. Clerk, so first, Commissioners, I just need your approval to move 9B up, and then we'll take any comments on it.
So moved.
I have a motion to consider by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore on 9B. And Mr. Clerk, if you'll go over that
Mr.
item
Chairman,
for us.
thank you. I don't want to take, this is under the county administrator's section, but this is an approval for the expenditure of funds that the sheriff has recommended for the crime prevention funds to assist FHP in purchase of their radar units.
Okay.
Captain Lamont is here to answer any questions and/or accept the positive vote.
Sure. Captain, good morning. Thank you for
Morning, Mr.
being
Chairman.
here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Commissioner, do you have any questions for the captain?
No,
I did
sir.
have one person, Dominic Farelli. He had 9B on there. Come on down, sir. Did you want to make a comment on that particular agenda item?
Yes, I did.
Come on, if you don't mind. Captain, if you would.
I'll take the other booth.
Okay.
I'll sit down and let you
That's
stay over
okay.
here.
Go ahead, you want to.
Okay.
All right.
My name is Dominic Farelli, 7 Chestnut Drive, Silver Spring Shores. This morning, I want to discuss about this radar situation then for the Florida Highway Patrol. I realize they need equipment, and I realize that they do a great job in Marion County. We depend on them a lot. Since they are the sole responsible for reporting on collisions and accidents and helping us a lot. But the equipment that they need should be provided by the state from Tallahassee, not by the taxpayers. The money that this is being transferred from, the funds, should be allotted to our sheriff's department or maybe the city for defensive, for our protection, for our use, for citizens of this county, not given to a state agency. If you look at the two bids that are in on number 7 something, you look at the two bids.
C1.
9B, I'm sorry, 9B. The bids are not even, one of them's assigned where the purchase order is to be shipped the guns to Marion County, the other one's to be shipped to Tallahassee. So Tallahassee would be, and I'm not even sure if Tallahassee would still have the final say on the distributing of equipment to the Highway Patrol, regardless who paid for them. So unless they have approval that it's Tallahassee is accepting this, I wouldn't even, I'm against it. And I think the state should pay for it. We already pay taxes, license plate fees, sales tax, registration. There's a segment on each part of those taxes that go to the Highway Patrol for equipment, and we're already paying for that. We should not. I'm against this. Thank you.
So Mr. Farelli, one of the aspects of the crime prevention fund is that it's a fees fund. So it's not a levy against your taxes. It's a fees fund. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Clerk, you can tell me, but I think the Highway Patrol, some of the tickets they write are actually part of this fees fund, and that's why we work collaboratively to bring these things together. So
there's the revenue source from this is from your individuals that are charged with misdemeanors and felonies. And as they make their payments, the allocation of those dollars go to this fund. In the last 3 years alone, if you look at the average misdemeanor and or felony charge, in addition to their traffic tickets, generates about $8,000 per year by FHP. So they continue to pay into that fund to where it generates the dollars to pay for these radar units. So there are no taxpayers' money being spent on this.
But according to that same that fee fund you're talking about, it does stay in there. It's supposed to be used for local protection. And I don't think it was meant to be used by state agencies. I thought it was meant to be used by county agencies or city.
The requirement of Captain Lamont is he's over
Marion County's troop. The radar units will stay in Marion County and be allocated and inventoried by this office on an annual basis to make sure the units are still here.
Mr. Chair.
And that's how, and this is not the first time we've done this, Mr. Clerk.
No,
This
sir,
is-
in 2004, it was done the same way.
Right, and it's worked out to be a pretty good policy overall, right?
Yes, sir.
For both agencies?
Yes, sir.
I was just going to state that it has been since 2003 since we have purchased any new units for FHP, and then also to reiterate, you know, on those funds, it's a $50 assessment for felony and $20 on misdemeanors. And if you think of the simple fact that it's been since 2003, I'm sure they've contributed to that fund quite a bit, and those units do stay in Marion County.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
For him, the radars are going to come here and they're going to retain, the county's going to retain ownership of those radars, and all the troopers that work here only work Marion County.
Okay.
So all the benefit, all the accrual of funds from the various fees
From
will
those
come back
radars
to
will be there.
come back to Marion County.
Thank you.
And I think, Mr. Fraley, you brought up some good points that somebody just looking at the agenda item might think some of the things that you thought. So it was probably some good information to get out there to the public. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you. All right, anyone else on 9B? This is specifically on the radars for FHP. Sorry. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Gold, second by Commissioner Bryant. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Elsterman.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Moving on to our next item. We're going to get into our general public comments. First person I have signed up to speak is Mr. Hagan Smith. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hagan Smith, 4420B, Southwest 80th Avenue, Ocala. There's many things I'd like to talk about as usual, but I want to applaud Mr. Spivey and his group with what they're doing in Marion County. I believe that the education system is lacking in the young folks, especially the ones that come from dysfunctional families, of the educational part of what they need to do in a community to have good governance and self-control in their community. I know it's really important that the godly principles be taught in this nation. And I think one of the major problems is we've gone away from that. And it's time that in any community that we bring it back so that people realize that you've got to govern yourself. The reason we have government is that government protects us from those who are stronger than us that'll take from us without our consent. A lot of these young folks that are going out there committing these crimes don't realize, number one, the foundational principle that should prohibit them from doing that. But the rules and regulations have grown to such a voluminous nature that no one can comprehend them. James Madison warned us about that when they created our Constitution for this country. But then secondly, so I recommend that you use whatever pressure that you can on the educational system to, again, teach these things in the schools. These kids that are getting arrested, and I want to focus on young people, have not learned these things, and the school system is remiss in teaching it. It should be taught. It should be mandated. They have to be there. If they don't have parents or the parents are dysfunctional or whatever reason, at least they will get exposure to these things and realize why they should not be doing all these things that are destructive to our community and the people in it. But secondly, I want to go back now to the sidewalk on 110th Avenue of 40 West. I find no reason why someone should die or get hit on that road because you guys failed to do something about it. Yesterday, my fiance and I were coming down 110th, and there's a guy on a bicycle. That guy on the bicycle, my fiance had to stop because there was no room for him to go. He was coming toward us. And there was no room for him to go anywhere, and a car was coming the other way. She would have hit him if she'd have kept on going. That's wrong. The safety is not there. These children who are waiting on the school buses are out in the road playing with their cell phones and stuff. The people who bring them down there to watch them while they're waiting for the bus are parking and blocking the roads till you can't even see to pull out. 110th Street out there is a mess. It needs you to have concern about it now, not 5 years from now. I implore you to fix the problem on 110th Street. With me here today is the gentleman I referred to before that had been hit twice on a bicycle, the last time severely, on 35th Avenue. Same problem over there. I believe it needs your attention, and it needs your attention now, not 5 years from today when somebody else is dead because you haven't addressed this problem. I don't know why you're kicking it down the road, but I ask you to kick it up the road. Get back to it, and let's fix this safety problem for the people.
Okay. Was that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hagan.
Any questions?
Commissioner Stone? Commissioner Stone had a question.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Hagan. We are looking at that consistently, and I just want you to know we're waiting to determine if we're going to have funding. October the 9th is when DOT is going to announce, because we have requested that to come from the state based on this being such a public safety issue. If the state is not going to allocate those funds, then Marion County, I believe, will find those funds. But because we have the ability to look at it through DOT, that is the preference that we wait. So just yesterday, I had the same conversation of what is our status in anticipation of recognizing we want to get that corrected as quickly as we can.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope you move it forward. I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have
it,
a good
Mr. Smith. Have a great day. All right. Mr. Forelli, you were signed up for a couple other agenda items, so can you come down now? And then on deck is Mr. Sampson. That's you, James Sampson. Come on. You can get ready. Come on down here.
Last one for the day. I'm named Dominic Forelli, 7 Chestnut Drive. The last one is 7B1. It's the approval for $129,000 for, is that the right one? That's for, it says block grant. Oh, that's the one for the centers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the centers. I have a, and you can correct me if you like, but I have a problem with our tax dollars being spent on nonprofit organizations. They came in here in February, I believe it was, and they said, well, we have less money to spend money on projects that they want because of less income coming from the state and the federal government. Well, so do we. I don't see us coming up here and asking for a new roof because we get less income on our retirement. So why are you giving it to the centers who, nonprofit organizations who don't even pay taxes? We do. We can't get sidewalks. All right, he's not the only one that has kids standing on street corners waiting to be hit or trying to avoid cars having to stop for our kids in the morning. So the only sidewalks we have in our neighborhood is because the school board put them in out of their building funds. So we can cut out a lot of this waste of giving it money to where they shouldn't be going and maybe help the taxpayers and the community in a better location. That's all I have. Thank you.
Sir. Any other questions or Commissioner Bryant?
I mean, do you want to explain to him how that's CDBG funding and that we actually awarded this back in February? So this is CDBG funding. It's our Community Development Block Grant funding, and we actually awarded this in February. And this is just the agreement that is coming through. This is the agreement that we're doing now. This isn't the actual awarding of the funding. That was done back in February.
Well, I understand, but there should have been more to it than just approving it in February.
Well, hold on, and I'm going to ask Cheryl Martin to come down so that she can explain to you where CDBG funding comes from.
What has to be applied?
Good morning, Cheryl Martin, Community Services Director. The county is considered an entitlement community for the federal government, and we actually receive federal dollars, Community Development Block Grant dollars directly from HUD. And we have special rules that we have to use the money for. And when we do our, when we create our action plans annually, we have a citizen participation plan. We advertise the funding, and at that time is when we can take public comment on how we're going to allocate the funding.
Thank you.
This isn't coming from your ad valorem.
Okay.
No, he knows.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Mr. Sampson.
James Sampson, 2341 Southeast 186 Terrace, Silver Springs, Florida. Tito is also scheduled for 2 minutes, but we're going to combine it because you have so many people here today.
Okay.
We can move a little quick. Couple of quick comments, and then we have a short video. And basically 5 years ago, I was met Kathy Bryant. She rused the day I came in her office because I'm demanding. I'm demanding about bullying. When I found out my child was being bullied, I want to do something about it. I didn't know what to do about it. But in the 5 years we've had our event, every year we recognize the resource officers of the year. People like you, Jeff, you know, they're the guys that are going to get shot, you know, when people come on these campuses after these kids. But they're also the kids that we got to expose. There was a word mentioned earlier about exposure. We want to expose the cops to the kids, these guys. So the kids talk to them, because information is power, and that's why we have our events. This event is just a culmination of hard work from everybody. I think we have a superintendent, Dr. Heidi Meyer, now that gets it. And the anti-bullying program is going to continue to flourish and do well with the great help we have from this body. 7 parents have called me, not 700, not 7,000. I'm not stopping bullying in Marion County. But the 7 parents that call me emotionally telling me about a kid that walked up to the bus stop and said, leave him alone. I took a pledge that I'm not going to allow it. And all they got to do is tell someone. I seen your picture, Jeff, at the sheriff's office when we went in there and we we coerced Billy Woods to fight this gentleman. He's going to say a couple words, and then I'm going to show a quick video, and we're going to get out of here.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Ciro Casio. My address is 90 Loop Lane, Ocala, Florida, 34472. I'm excited about this tournament. It's also, we're trying to fight for the veterans. Also, we're helping my gym. My gym will be in September 11. It'll be 11 years. We have the gym. It's a Christian gym. It's called John 316 and 17 Boxing Club, where we help kids off the street, get them off gangs, off drugs, and let them know about Jesus Christ. That's my main purpose in the gym. Some of them become fighters, good. None of them become fighters, but I want them to become good citizens. But at this day, September 30th, I'm going to be fighting Billy Wood, who's a friend of mine. I voted for him, but there's no friendship in the ring. I was a 2-time champion. I was a champion in 3-weight divisions.
What do you think happens if you knock him out?
Well, he gave me a ticket one time, so it's
an opportunity.
It's my chance. I came back from retirement. I was a 2-time champion, 3-weight divisions. So I'm excited to go against Billy Woods, though.
Hey, just don't bully him like Hank Whittier did to me last year, okay?
And you and Kathy Bryant, you cannot arrest my celebrity guest who's going to be coming in from Boston, period. Now we're just going to show a video, and we'll try to get out of here.
Maybe I can have somebody else do it.
That ain't happening.
You have the video queued up?
Oh, I'm scared. Judge.
Commissioner Stan McLean, baby cakes, and one of our law enforcement people. I don't know who that is. McLean and Jacob Sampson. Here's Hank getting beat up. Oh, look. That's illegal. We have a lot of fun September 30th. Come and see us.
Thanks, Sampson. All right, Mr. Graybill, you're up. Is he here? Mr. Graybill?
Yeah, he's right there.
You didn't fall asleep on me back there, did you?
I didn't see my name on the list. I was waiting to see.
You signed up?
I know.
Then, Mr. Nechtel, you're up next, sir.
I'm going to have something totally different for you today, okay?
Excellent.
Richard Graybill, 8519 Southeast 158th Street. I really appreciate what you people are doing. I'd like to give you a challenge today. And as I give you the challenge, please don't take anything negative from it. But I'm going to use both the negative and positive side. And one thing very quickly about this thing working with juveniles, as I was in service, we had a situation in Tripoli, Libya, where that if you were a third-class citizen, in other words, you're not local, when you went to jail, you went to jail right away. If you were a local, you could let your family and friends know to feed you. They didn't feed in the jail. You don't have many people repeating going to jail if you don't get to eat while you're there, and you have to have somebody that'll let your family know. I know one major that had his son in jail for 3 days before the base knew it, because they thought he was out on the desert hunting, but didn't realize that he'd been arrested. Those things get a hold of teenagers' minds really quick. Let me say this to you, and this is really an encouragement because I appreciate what you're doing. In Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 17, we get a glowing description of our God. At the very end of that verse, it says this, that he's not partial to anyone, shows no favoritism, and also does not take a bribe. When you get over to Deuteronomy 11:26, it says, I'm going to come and be a blessing, I'm going to be a curse. One of the reasons I'm bringing this to you is this. You get to hear each and all sides, and you have to always be very careful to stay within the rulings and things that you have. And I'm not saying you're not doing it, I'm saying this. As you listen to each of these, make sure that you use the standard that God's given to you. And here's the reason I say this. When you look at Psalms 82, and David, I'll hold you a little bit more accountable on this since you've got a little bit more Bible background, and I would tell you to take and use an amplified version of the Bible because it brings a language up to modern day, and it shows that each of you people, as you're representing us, and we have a responsibility to help you to do right, but you have a responsibility even for us that are not able to speak for ourselves or do for ourselves. And it says those that are judging, those that are representative of the people, but there's some strong guidelines and results for you for not doing correctly. Now, I'm not saying you're not doing correctly. I'm just saying make sure that you look at the standard so that you do keep doing things right. And if you're not, the consequences fall back on you. And I thank you for the time. It is good to be back with you. I will say this, the last 2 meetings I missed, Sadie and I have been helping veterans who have lost family members through death or whatever to do counseling and working with, and God has richly blessed us in this, in helping these people, and some of them had some real mental issues because of the pressures from the situation, and a lot of it came from them serving in some of our bad times. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Grable.
Thank you, Mr. Grable.
Mr. Nexel. Next up is Judy Rainey.
Good morning. Roger Nectel, 127 Southeast 97 Terrace in beautiful Summerfield. I have to apologize, I didn't make the last meeting. My wife was down yonder in the Monroe Regional Hospital at 6 in the morning, and I had to make a decision, and you guys were second.
Rightfully so.
And I was supposed to be on the list for 7 wonders, so I'm going to do as many as I can until you throw me out.
Yes, sir.
The first wonder is Heidi Meyer. She has changed the world for a lot of parents. My wife had 4 children, and we took raising the kids pretty serious. Each kid would spend time at homework by himself in the kitchen with my wife. Sometimes it was 3 or 4 hours every day of the week. If it wasn't for that, we probably would have had 8 kids. I see no problem with no homework when you're kindergarten to the 6th grade. After that, you should be mature enough to do your own homework and be more responsible. The steel barrier you put up on baseline by the K school, it's really a work of art. I know the state did it, but I'm sure that you guys intervened and convinced them to change their minds, and sometimes that's almost impossible. Maybe other people commented last month, I'm not sure. I'm so happy that you're continuing to support the veterans and do more and more good things for our vets. Mr. M.W. Bono Onis, Bo U Onis, had an article about a month ago.
Practiced before the meeting too.
I said it perfect, but now.
Said it perfect.
But that's the story of my life. He had a nice article a month ago about the MSTUs. A lot of people come down here and so happy they're paying 1/10 the taxes they were up north. I had a farm, so there wasn't much of a difference, but there still was a difference. But nobody tells them, like the real estate agents and others should tell them, that every 10 or 15 years, your roads are going to be taxed, or you're going to have to pay for reestablishing a layer of asphalt. That would also give a person more ownership of the road and maybe take better care of it. Okay. The next thing the wonder I'm really negatively thinking about is artificial reality. That's what's going on with our kids between the iPhone and now these special little glasses, and you can be in another world. Our youth is going to be destroyed. I'm surprised I got as far as I did. Yeah. You know, we had a lot of rain, 89 days, by the way. And if we had a reservoir just south of 484 on the Wathalatucci, we would have gotten a lot of water there. Not the river, the normal water, but any overflow. Any rain that hits in Marion County should stay in Marion County. That would have been 1 trillion gallons. Ocklawaha River, just northeast of the Lake Weir. If we had a reservoir there, we could have now filled up Lake Weir.
I think all we need to do is line all these DRAs.
Okay, and I was supposed to be 7 wonders. I sort of goofed it up.
Right
but
on there?
There is an 8th wonder. My wife, Lucy. 18 surgeries and still here, major surgeries. And a woman that I really never knew was going to be the woman she was. Our 4 kids are so lucky that, number one, her name isn't on every one of the graduation certificates, because she really worked hard. So thank you very much. I'm sorry that all the confusion. And I have a thing for reducing people in prison as far as residual or
recidivism.
Right. Any sex offender, castrate. It'll never happen again.
It's a great public policy discussion. All right. Ms. Rainey, and then Robert Matthews. I think that's right. Yeah, Robert Matthews. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Judy Rainey, 3642 Northeast 28th Court, Ocala, Florida, 34479. First, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and to refresh your memories of a little more than a year ago when 3 of you were seated on the County Commission and you voted to have the 3rd National Confederate flag retired as a compromise and a First National flag, which is a much less controversial flag, raised and moved to a new historical, less visible Flags of Florida Plaza. Do I have to continue?
Unless you want to.
Does she have to have the microphone up there? Because I think she just
do you not want to?
Up there.
No.
Can you mind removing
Sorry.
that, sir? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. On May 15th, 2016, at the request of the County Commission, the 3rd National was retired in a very respectful and dignified service by 2 veterans, one a retired Marine and the other a Navy veteran. These 2 veterans then raised the First National in its new home during a dedication ceremony. Both services were conducted by Southern heritage groups. What you, the County Commission, asked to be done regarding the flags was done with honor, and I do hope you will continue to take a stand in this matter and do the right thing. Keep these historical flags in place as they are the historical flags of Florida, and keep the Johnny Reb statue where it now stands, as it does represent American veterans. I would like to remind everyone, too, that no county funds were used to move the statue or build the Flags of Florida Plaza. Thank you again.
Thank you. I just wanted to, you know, I've gotten a lot of interviews over the last couple of weeks, and you know, I wanted to say, you know, things in our country have gotten pretty bad. Actions based on, quite frankly, any kind of supremacy, white supremacy, or any other supremacy of a race are just wrong. Exactly. They are, they have no place in this community, and our leadership won't tolerate it. We are equal under the law, and our Declaration of Independence guaranteed us rights by our Creator, not by man, and that all races and all men are equal. That offering a welcoming environment to our residents to have a debate is great. We can have a debate all the time. But to allow people, especially from outside our community, to come in and try to develop hate and violence about a conversation that we want to have as a local community will not be tolerated either. Those kind of things just don't have place in this community. We have had peaceful conversations and disagreements. We may not always agree on an issue, but we've had peaceful discord because our community is united. And when we pledge allegiance to this flag right here. Mm-hmm. We pledge allegiance that we are Americans and we will not be divided even though we have different opinions. And to that end, we have had long debates. Our commission in 2010 moved the statue from the courthouse to the Veterans Park in way to understand history and to learn from history. We moved the 5 flags to put them in a better place and a historical trail next to our museum so that our children can learn about all 5 flags that flew over the state of Florida, not just one. And for us to be divisive over any of those things, and listen, my friends and my fellow residents, we can be upset about something. We can have disagreements about things. We can do things in a civil manner, though, and we can love each other even though we disagree. It's called family. We have plenty of it, and each one of you disagree with your family member at some point, but you don't hate them. And we need to move that knowledge from our heads 18 inches to our hearts and love people no matter where they stand because they're our fellow man. And with that, I don't have a problem with all of the folks that want to talk about it, but I just want you to know that we're going to do it in a peaceful manner, in a way that has civil debate, and we're going to get to an answer for our community, and that's why our community is one of the greatest in this country, is because we can do this very thing. Sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Robert Matthews, 10501 147th Circle, Denellen, Major Marine Corps retired. And on the subject of white supremacy, my Marines were all green. We didn't have any black, brown, yellow, white, just green.
Amen.
And that's the way it should be. I'd just like to know if there's a consensus. Does this commission believe that a Confederate veteran has the same rights, privileges, and emoluments as a U.S. veteran?
U.S. Congress states it does.
The U.S. Congress had given the widows of the Confederacy, many that died, the same privileges of a U.S. soldier. You know, I think that people have worked those things out through history, and we can have that debate. But people still debate it today. And do I know all the answers? No, sir, I don't.
I sent you all a copy last day or so of the 2 statutes that are most particular. 1958, they equated the Confederate veterans with the same privileges as U.S. veterans.
In a burial, correct? If I read that right. Right. I'm asking that. I read your email, and I just want to make sure if I was thinking about that correctly. It was they gave them the Iron Cross, correct?
The first one was about putting crosses on all the Confederate graves.
Correct.
Just like they do for U.S. graves.
Okay.
And then the second one was where of course, they did it in the year the last veteran died, but it still gives the privileges to the Confederate veterans that are held by U.S. veterans.
Right.
So on that basis, I believe he is exactly where he's supposed to be. That's a Veterans Park. And no disrespect to you folks, but we're the veterans. We should be able to determine what happens over there.
Yes, sir.
And I would hope you would continue in that vein.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much for the time.
Appreciate your.
Mr. Saleh, could I make a comment on this?
No,
Yeah.
sir.
Granada,
We'll have another public comment section after the meeting.
Granada, or
Mitchell? Is that right?
Granadini, Michael?
Yes.
Granada Michael? I'm sorry.
It's Michael Crandon.
Okay, you've got your, okay.
Sorry.
So
Come
Michael
on up.
Crandon.
And then Mark Lewis.
I'm sorry about the writing.
It's
Sorry, you must be
okay.
a doctor.
No, I'm a disabled vet.
Ah.
And I got the shakes a little bit.
No problem, sir.
Okay. And I'm
we
sorry
got
I
through
butchered
it.
it.
My name is Michael Crandon. I live here in Ocala at 1755 Southeast 3rd Avenue. It's right across from, you know where the Catholic Church is?
Yes, sir.
I'm right across the street from them. Well, today I want to talk about that Confederate statue out there.
Yes, sir.
I know there's a lot of people that are against it, but personally, I can trace my ancestry back to the Confederate War and well past on both sides. Now my family fought, and I have Confederate veterans in my family that are buried right here. And my question is, if you move our Johnny Reb out there, are they going to go into these cemeteries and start digging up my relatives? Because you know how people can get one-sided and not look on the other side, and they can go in there and start desecrating our graves. And I really feel if you guys move that it's going to go well past where it shouldn't, but I feel like it's going to happen.
Well, let me tell you something. Desecration of public property in any manner is criminal. And this Board of County Commissioners and its leadership, if people start taking the law or their actions into their own hands and participate in criminal behavior, will be prosecuted.
Well, I feel that statue out there is public property, especially to the veterans.
It is on public property, yes, sir.
And I don't want to see anything happen to it. I know there's going to be a lot of hell to pay for me to say and stuff like that. But, you know, my family is buried here, brother. My family's buried here.
Yes. And there are many Americans just like you that have people that fought on both
I
sides of
served
the
over
war.
24 years in the military, and I never had a problem with any kind of race relations or nothing.
Right.
And now I come home, I see my country being destroyed, statues being pulled down, people rioting all over the place. I mean, it's sickening to me. 24 years I fought for this country. And now I do want to thank you for the big break you give me on my property taxes, though, because I'm totally impermanent.
Yes, sir.
But anyway.
That's the least we could do for your service.
I just wanted to say that about the statue, and God, I pray that it doesn't go any farther than that. I mean, if you have to move it, you have to move it. But please put it in a safe place, because right now it's where it could get vandalized, and I'm so worried about it. And anyway, I just want to speak my mind about that.
Thank you for saying that. Commissioner Bryant.
Mr.
Thank
Chair. And I just want to reiterate some of the things that the chair said. You know, this discussion is a discussion that we've had before. And regardless of what side of this issue that you're on, you know what, we've got an opportunity here within our own community to set the tone for the rest of our nation. You know, everyone is watching, not just our communities, but communities all over the United States of America. And as the chair said, the one thing that we all need to remember, and I thought about it yesterday, how many of you sitting in this auditorium were watching the eclipse? How many of you saw the eclipse yesterday, took a look at it? How many of you were interested in it? At that point in time, everybody in our nation, we had forgot about all of this discourse that we have going on, and for a brief moment, we were all united. We have the opportunity to set the tone for the rest of the nation. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, it needs to be done with civility and decorum. And that's what we have lost within our nation, and we need to bring that back. So let's set that tone here in Marion County in our conversations. And as the chair has said, this board is not going to tolerate any defamation of any public property anywhere. It's a crime, and you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. regardless. And that's another thing that our community, that our nation has forgotten, is that there is a way to behave, and it's not lawlessness. Amen. Nothing was ever accomplished through that. So let's remember that.
Mark Lewis, and then John Horhides. I think that's right.
Horrigs.
Horace. Thank you.
Hello, my first time here, Mark Lewis, 1697 Northwest 28th Place, Ocala, Florida, 34475.
Good morning.
My problem is people that don't even live here all across the United States trying to tell us what we need to do with the statue and where they want us to move it, if anywhere. And it really got my attention, and my idea is that, you know, that represents a time in history, part of history, and a moment in history. And it's, we have a 911 monument, and it's not about celebrating anything. It's a part of history. And we have a Holocaust monument. And it, you know, when I see things on TV about the Holocaust, man, it hurts me, but it's still a part of history. And I don't know where I'm going with this. But I have a problem with very few people in our population affecting the many people in our population. And I think if you could get everybody in one spot that wants something done with our Confederate symbols, and people in another spot, man, it would be so outvoted by the people that we just need to leave this the way it is. And I appreciate you letting me say that, and I appreciate the way that y'all treat these people that speak before you. I've never done it. I'm scared to death. But I was not going to sit home and not say something, because the rest of my life, if I hadn't, I'd have regretted it. So I've done it. Thank you.
We're very scary people.
Commissioner Bryan is kind of scary. All right, John, and then Kenneth Mills is next.
My name is John Horrocks, 305 Southeast 33rd Avenue, Ocala, Florida, 34471. I rise in support of keeping the monument where it is. I think you made a great decision when you decided to move it to Veterans Parkway, since it is a monument for Confederate veterans. I'm currently the commander of the General Eugene Carr, Camp Number 5, Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. And at the same time, I'm commander of one of the 2 Sons of Confederate Veterans camps, the Marion Light Artillery, Camp 1396 here in Ocala. I don't know if you're aware of it, I'm sure you are. There was a recent poll that was released on last Saturday. 63% of the general public in the United States voiced their opinion that the statues should be left as they are, to be left alone. I think if there was a referendum held in Marion County, and I've been accused of being a carpetbagger myself, I've only been here 38 years, but if there was a referendum held in this county tomorrow, I think the majority would vote to leave the veteran statue where it is. Thank you for affording me this opportunity.
Kenneth Mills, and then Faye Mills next.
Kenneth Mills, 7 Redwood Track, Silver Spring Shores.
Yes, sir.
I was born and raised here in Marion County. My mother and father were raised here. I've got grandparents and great-grandparents that were raised and born here. And my thing is that I am tired of the media, I think, causing these conflicts about these statues and the flags and everything else. And I think they're promoting this hatred that's going on. And we need to stop paying attention to these media people and get back to listening. I have a lot of respect for every one of you on this panel up here. I know a lot of you. And I think that it's time for us to bring peace and God back to Marion County and forget about fighting. And when these people from out of town come here, and if they can't prove that they live here, I think we should arrest them on the spot and ship them out of here. And I just feel that it's time to bring God back to Marion County.
I'm not sure Detective Bowie would be able to pull that one off, just because they don't live here, but.
Faye Mills, and then Frank R. Scarfy, is that right? Close. All right, there we go. Come on.
Scarfo.
Scarfo. Yes, ma'am.
Eleanor Faye Mills, 7 Redwood Track, Ocala, Florida, 34472. Following up my husband, I've seen our country and the disarray it's become. I am a proud person to live here in Ocala. Originally, I was pretty much in Orlando, and I moved with my child as a single mother after a divorce to raise him in a decent atmosphere, and he loves it here too. Anyway, I don't know how many people know this, but the Civil War ended in 1865. That's 152 years ago. All of a sudden, everybody wants to demolish all of this monuments. All of a sudden, I got a question. Why? They've been here all along. It's educational. One thing that I've noticed on the news and everything and watching all this, to me, these people that are protesting and wanting to tear down the monuments, they're very ignorant. They have no clue what history is. They need to get educated. Did I say that right? Educated. Anyway, Civil War was about slavery, and they're all worried about slavery. I don't think there's anybody alive past 152 years that were a slave now. They ended slavery. I'd like to know, why is there reasoning to take down monuments? Why do they want to move this one monument out of a veterans park? It's been there how many years? Do you know?
7 or 8.
1908.
And now, this year,
2009.
they got the 7-year itch? I don't know. But we need to stop this. I love this county. I love the strength that we have in this county. But it looks like we need to be a beacon for the world, and we need to stop this. They don't have a reason to take this down. It's been 7 years or so. Thank you.
Mr. Frake, and then Jim Castleman.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
It's a privilege to address the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Frank Scarfo. I live at 11120 Southeast 92nd Court in Bellevue. I might say that I had the privilege of meeting Commissioner David Moore in his candidacy, and I did vote for him, and my wife also. And we came with, in voting for him, we had confidence in him and his opinions and the way he would conduct himself on the board. I come to you this morning with comment and with question. The comment would be, I want to know, after our forefathers had laid structure for liberty and freedom, and I'm expressing myself with one of those liberties right now, with being able to speak in a free place with freedom of speech, and to project my question on comment also. And I thank our forefathers for laying that structure over 225 years ago. So I come to you with a question of, I want to know where this rush to judgment comes from. Why isn't this amended to take down the statue? Why are we rushing to judgment all of a sudden all over the country? Bam, 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 bam. Because a minority of people, not mentioning their culture, a minority of people, a group of people, all of a sudden want to do this. Where's their vote? It's a screaming crowd. And with what has already been spoken about, ringers put in this crowd. These people that are in this building this morning asking these questions, they're not sticks and guns and knives and clubs. They're not carrying those things. They're carrying the voice of their opinion, which they're allowed to express. I want to know why so quickly. Okay, let's get the statue out of here. Who is the power behind this? And where is the regulatory guidelines to do this so quickly? I just, that's my question. I want to know that. I've been a citizen and a resident in the state of Florida for over 60 years, and I do come from the north. But I hold proud the historical value of the Southern people and the Southern veterans. And I think that we should hold that in respect by keeping the statues and the flag. It is a part of history. In closing, I want to give you two great examples where these people say that it's bad because it represents slavery. Okay, the pyramids. The Egyptians held the Jews in slavery for hundreds of years. The pyramids are still there. The Holocaust, okay? The Holocaust camps are still there. Those people treated those people, the Jewish people, like slaves. They're still there. It's a reminder so that it doesn't happen again, and it's part of history. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jim Castleman. I live at 3920 Southeast 110th Street in Bellevue, Florida. Well, these people are making it hard to follow. I have to agree that education is the answer to it all. I also wanted to bring to everybody's attention that yesterday in Manatee County, down in Bradenton, the Antifa crew started some issues down there. They had some people arrested and everything. They've had to take their statue down there and put plywood all over it to keep it from being damaged. And they intend to leave it that way until all these issues are over with so that it doesn't get damaged. And like the ones up north that we saw get pulled down, that was made out of copper. It will never be replaced. It's irreplaceable. So, I don't want to see this happen to ours, and maybe we should box it up, until this is all over with. But like I said, education is the issue here. People are all, wanting to get rid of Robert E. Lee's statue. Let me tell you a little bit about Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee was married to George Washington's granddaughter. He worked with Grant during the Mexican-American War and became a decorated war hero defending the country. He believed slavery was a great evil, and he broke with law. His wife broke with the law, teaching slaves to read and write. After the Civil War, He worked with Andrew Jack Johnson's program of Reconstruction. He became very popular with the northern states, and the barracks at West Point was named in his honor in 1962. He was a great man who served this country his entire life in some form or other. His memorial is now being called a blight. No American military veteran should be treated as such. People keep yelling, "You can't change history." Sadly, you can. There's no better than book burnings. ISIS tried rewriting history by destroying historical artifacts. Is this who we really want to emulate? After they tear down his blight, keep these few historical facts in your mind. No military veteran and highly decorated war hero should ever be treated as such. This is not Iraq, and that is not a statue of Saddam. Anyway, Lee's property during the war had taxes owed on it. He sent his wife to pay the taxes for it. It was called Arlington. They wouldn't accept the taxes from her because she was a woman. So they started burying Union soldiers there. So Lee's property is now what we call Arlington National Cemetery. So are we going to dig all the soldiers up there because General Lee led the Confederacy? You know, these people need educated. They don't know what they're doing. There's another thing that I wish everyone would read. It's called The True Causes of Uncivil War, Understanding the Moral Tariff. This is the true reason that all the states seceded from the Union, okay? Slavery was not the issue at the time. This started in 1860. They raised the tariffs on the South to support the federal government. We didn't have an income tax. The federal government ran on the tariffs from all the states and all the goods that we produced and shipped out. Okay, the moral tariff at the time.
We've been up for a little while. If you just finish up, please.
Okay, the moral tariff at the time Lincoln was elected had been knocked back down to something like 20%. As soon as Lincoln came back in, he supported the moral tariff and bumped it back up to like 65%. So you couldn't afford to live in the South hardly. You couldn't support your family. And only rich people owned slaves to begin with. The common man couldn't afford to own a slave. So 95% of the people in the South didn't own slaves. Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, so that's everybody that has signed up to speak. We're now going to move into our workshop, or not a workshop, but our normal agenda, and then we'll also have another time at the end of the meeting if you want to stay and speak, that's fine. So, Commissioners, with that, let's move on to item 5. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5A is a request of the budget amendments as listed on the agenda 1 through 19.
All right, Commissioners, any questions or want to pull anything from 5A1 through 5A18?
So moved. Second.
Or 19, sorry. I have a motion to move 5A1 through 5A19 by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Bryant. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
5B, Mr. Chairman, is a request of approval of the reapportionment of the budget funds prepared for next year.
Okay. There's a reapportionment, Commissioners. Any questions or comments?
Sir.
If not, I need a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Stone. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. 5C.
5C, Mr. Chairman, each year you have to renew the federal forestry shared revenues for special projects for year 17-18.
Okay. Have special projects by
So moved.
Forestry.
Second.
5C. Motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Gold. Any question or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And 5D.
5D is a request the adoption of the budget amendments as presented for the enterprise resource planning for the ERP 1 through 8 on 5D, please.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Stone. Any questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right. So, consent agenda. Start to my left, Commissioner Stone.
I don't have anything to pull.
Okay, Commissioner Moore?
Good.
Commissioners Gold?
No.
Commissioner Bryant?
I have about 10 items, Mr. Chair.
Good. Start with one.
Good, thank you.
All right. What's that?
Are you following? You need a motion?
Yeah, no, hold on one second.
Okay.
There was one item I wanted to ask a question on. I marked it on my other piece of paper, so.
You can skip it this time.
Okay, it's 7I1. Just had a question on the
Make a
kiosk.
motion to move the
The balance.
balance of the consent agenda.
All right, Commissioner Bryant with the balance of the consent, second by Commissioner Moore. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Hey, Brian, could you just answer, or Tom, can you just answer a question on the kiosk, please? 7I1.
That's not 7I1, is it?
It's not?
Yeah, the kiosk.
Yeah, okay, my
Yeah.
bad. I was looking at the wrong one.
Is it?
I was
is it
looking
not
at
I?
H. Nope, you're good.
Okay. So I looked at this, and the only thing I was concerned about was the reoccurring costs, and so I just wanted to make sure I understood. Were we going to have to pay $5,000 a year for this thing, or how did that work?
Yes, sir. Yes, Commissioner. That would be.
Why is the reoccurring so high on this thing?
It's the average percentage. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 18% of part of the original software costs.
Okay.
That is an industry typical for software support for an item of this nature.
Okay. All right. So when it says optional, what does that mean for us? Will they not support it if we don't have a license with them, or just walk me through? This piece says, it talks about an optional service agreement, so.
That is
Tom,
my
did you review that?
that is my understanding. Tom might be able to answer that question a little bit more succinctly.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so Tom Lohr, the Information Technology Director. The optional service agreement was, from my understanding and remembering, we reviewed this a while back, but it was for the license, and also, wasn't that for some of the hardware, Brian? Yes. So for some of the hardware that was going to run this system.
Okay. So is that, you feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, those are my questions, Commissioners. Thanks for entertaining me. With that, I'll
Move 7I1.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any questions or conversation?
Go ahead.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
May I make a quick comment? I just want to say to our new building department director, Mr. Camden, and his staff, kudos on a job well done for the improvements that you made over there. I was at an event, and you should hear this, I was at an event recently last Thursday night, and I actually had someone come up to me and say, you know, what a great job you had done over there in implementing some changes, and how nice it was becoming to do business with the building department again. So appreciative of Brian, your efforts as well, and just please keep up the great work.
Thank you very much. It's good to hear the feedback.
Yeah, we're hearing
Had a
some good
lot.
comments.
I'll share that with the people who do the work as soon as I get back.
Thank you.
very
We
much.
can get some coffee over there, we'll be in good shape.
Thank you.
All right. 9, Mr. Administrator. What?
Go on.
You don't have nothing on the agenda, sir. I'm sorry.
I have a walk-on.
You're out of order. All right, walk on.
We don't want to deal with you.
So we have a.
You don't want to deal with me.
I need a motion to consider.
Motion to consider.
Second.
Have a motion to consider by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Mr. Mincher.
Mr. Chair, the nature of this walk-on is to basically inform the board of certain developments that relate to the board's actions back in July of denying a comprehensive plan amendment and related rezoning to plan development application on behalf of AZ Ocala Ranch. The property owner has decided to challenge the board's denial as to both the plan amendment and the rezoning, which of course they're legally entitled to do. They have submitted a petition that requests the board to engage in alternative dispute resolution pursuant to Section 70.51 Florida statutes. And basically that involves a proceeding with a hearing officer. The board last went through that kind of proceeding like 7 years ago with the Compost USA matter that we were involved in. Actually, in that time, Mr. Spivey, who was here this morning, was the magistrate in that case. But in addition to that, they've also, the property owners have also filed a suit in circuit court, a lawsuit requesting both injunctive and declaratory relief related to the denials that I mentioned a moment ago. So basically, they're proposing to, now that they've filed the lawsuit, they're proposing to kind of hold the litigation in abeyance and request that the parties mediate these disputes to attempt to see if we can resolve them ultimately before a court would ever have a final hearing.
The court's going to force us to do that anyway,
He's going
right?
to force us to mediate anyway. So it's my recommendation to the board that if we can go ahead and go through this sooner rather than later, it will be cost effective in doing that.
Commissioner Bryant.
Okay, so just one quick question.
Yeah.
By stating that we're willing to go to mediation, does that automatically imply that we're willing to negotiate on this?
No.
Well, I should say that if you don't do it beforehand, if the court orders you to do it, you are required to mediate in good faith, which is not the same as saying that if you don't hear anything that's acceptable to you, you have to accept anything. Mediation is totally voluntary. It's not like an arbitrator where someone is going to impose a decision on you. Now, the benefit of mediation or alternative dispute resolution is, as any mediator will tell you, this is the opportunity where the two litigants have an opportunity to come together and mutually decide if there's some resolution they can reach without it going to a judge or a jury. Once you get to the judge or jury, your chance of controlling the outcome is gone. It's totally out of your hands at that point, and that's the same in any litigation. So,
The answer was yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my question, Mr. Mentor, is, I mean, we've had other decisions that the Board of County Commissioners has made that have been challenged.
right.
And the last one, I believe, we ended up being able to hold our position.
That's true.
So, I mean, it would seem to me that unless we are considering changing our position, we would not be mediating in good faith.
Well, I suppose what I would offer to you, and I would offer this to you, not only in this case, but in any case that goes to a mediation. And that is the whole purpose of mediation, is to enable you to come to the table and perhaps hear something you haven't thought about before. So maybe as you sit here today, based on what you heard in the hearing in July, you were comfortable that you made the right decision at that point in time. However, at a alternative dispute resolution proceeding, you undoubtedly will hear some things that will ultimately get presented to the court. If you don't want to hear them, the judge will hear them. And my recommendation to you is that it's prudent in any case to come to a mediation with an open mind, in good faith. And again, if you don't hear anything that changes your mind, then
You don't have to
the
agree to
mediator
anything.
impasses the proceeding, and then we leave it up to the court to
But the judge is
decide.
going to ask us to go,
Right.
Fine.
no matter what.
I understand. I just wanted to get all of those
No, I
questions
understand.
answered
Yeah.
so that for myself, I understood exactly what we would be entering into.
Right, yeah. Now,
Right, it's not a negotiation to get to a, you don't have to get to a resolution. I think that's what you
And
can
I
end
guess-
up at impasse.
Right, and that's what I want to make sure of, is that there's not that expectation from any of the parties involved that, and something's automatically going to change just because we're going into this mediation.
I don't think they have an expectation, the property owner has an expectation that we're automatically going to change our position any more than we automatically assume that they're going to show up and say, hey, we agree you're right, and we
Okay.
shouldn't have even come here. So,
Commissioner Gold.
Because I think what it is we don't want the perception that because we're going to mediation, we're going to automatically change our mind or agree to work something
that's
out.
not that's not a threshold
comfortable with
question
where we
for
were.
agreeing to mediate. I would say this, that in these land use proceedings that go through an alternate dispute resolution proceeding, it does happen on occasion that the parties work out something that they say, you know, hey, this may be workable. Well, I'm not presuming that it would, but they come up with something that may be workable. If that should happen as a result of the mediation, then what would happen is the board would then conduct an additional public hearing that the entire public who came to the hearing in July, they would be given an opportunity to hear whatever this new proposal was, and then the board could act on that at a public hearing. So that's how that drill would work. As one other part of what I'm presenting to you right now, that is, I would request, subject to your approval, that the board convene a brief special meeting sometime between now and the September regular board meeting, solely for the purpose of convening a shade meeting so that we can talk about the board's position going into such a mediation.
Right, a negotiation strategy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions, commissioners? All right, anyone in the public want to make any comment in regard to the lawsuit or mediation? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, would you all like to have Nadja or someone check your calendars
Yep.
before this afternoon's meeting, and then this afternoon's meeting we can figure out what.
And schedule the shade meeting? Yep. That's
Thank
fine.
you. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Minter. All right, now, Mr. Administrator.
9A, Commissioner, I don't have any specific update under that item. 9B has been taken care of. 9C, at the last meeting, the board requested additional information in regard to Resolution 14 or 365 to repeal Section 8. Additional information has been provided by the Livestock Pavilion for your consideration and direction.
All right. Commissioners, any comments?
Comment on this.
Sure.
I'm still against repealing this. I just think that it is still where we've been working so much and empowering employees for so long that I understand the administrator's opinion on this and respect that, you know, the opinion that's been given on this. But I just think that this has only been working for a little bit over a year or 2 years, I guess. And, you know, it's working.
Right.
And we're empowering employees, which is what we're doing all the training through, and it motivates them. And even though I know if it goes through, they'll still be motivated to do their job 100%, I think it's an activity that's working within. And like we heard this morning from Mr. Lamb, the Livestock Pavilion is an excellent example of what we present in Marion County. So I just strongly would like to see this stay as it is for now, and consider it again at a later time.
All right, Commissioner Moore?
I'd just like to echo Commissioner Gold. I agree that, you know, repealing something that worked, because initially when it did get enacted, I was kind of, you know, skeptical, but it got enacted, tried it out, and it works great. So I'm actually going to make a motion to deny the repeal.
Second.
Okay, have a motion for denial by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Gold. Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Aye.
That fails 3-2. Motion is repealed.
Well, no, you all have to make a motion.
No, doesn't it automatically repeal? Or do we need to make a motion for?
You need a positive motion, I think.
Need a positive motion. All right. So.
Okay, so with that said, I understand your point and your position, but, you know, it's my intention to make sure that Denise and her staff are still able to carry on the business at hand of the Livestock Pavilion. They do a wonderful, wonderful job, and it is not, in repealing this, it definitely is not my intention to hinder that at all. I will still fully continue to support the livestock pavilion, but I think for clarification and for budgeting purposes, I think that this needs to be put in the appropriate position, and therefore I will make a motion for approval.
And I think, so I have a motion for approval by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Stone. But all of these things need to be vetted through the budget process as we do it. They don't need to be singled off. They need to be in the normal budget process. They need to be vetted by the county commission. And this is the process to do that, and that's why I'm voting to repeal.
And let me just also say this, if there's ever anything that Denise or her staff need and they feel very strongly about it, my door is always open for them to come and sit down with me and go over that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Stone, to approve the requested repeal. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye. Opposed.
So that moves 3-2 with Commissioner Gold and Moore dissenting. All right, 9D.
90, Commissioner, is the proposed 2018 state legislative priorities for your consideration and direction. Also, I would like for you to consider, as you discuss this item, the letter from the college, item 13A4. They are requesting our support for their legislative priorities too. And Jeannie Rickman will give us more detail on this item.
Seems like we just finished with this.
Yes, we did, and we're going to start another cycle. Jeannie Rickman, Public Services Assistant County Administrator. Before I present to you the proposed legislative priorities, there are a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. First of all, we do have President Jim Henningsen in the audience. If you had any questions based on his request for support. Committee meetings are going to begin September 12th. The assignments to those committees with either our delegation members and all of the other legislators have been assigned, and they have been posted. So I have that information for you at any time. Our legislative delegation meeting is scheduled for October 19th. It is on our calendars for 1 o'clock at the College of Central Florida. So, as you know, the proposed priorities that are on the agenda were derived from individual meetings that were held with you individually with both John Wayne Smith, our county lobbyist with Peebles and Smith. Unfortunately, John could not make it this morning as he had originally planned, but he will be available at any time if you have any questions. In the proposed document, we have two funding requests, one being the funding request to provide initial design and engineering for the next state veterans nursing home, and this is to keep it on the state's radar because we are in the cycle for federal funding within their program guidelines. The second one is to continue the request for funding for the construction of Phase 3 construction at the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion. Bill requests as well as appropriations for these two bills, the deadline is November 14th. So pending board approval today, staff would prepare those the appropriate forms that are necessary for submission of the appropriation requests and submit those before that deadline. Two additional legislative priorities within this document consist of the discretionary sales tax initiative and the protection of water resources. Following those, four substantive priorities are additional items that are included as a statement of support. As our legislators move forward with filing their bills, we would bring these to their attention as well. So I'm open to any questions if you have that or for Mr. Henningsen.
All right, Commissioners, any questions? I need a motion to move
So moved.
Second.
priorities. Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any other questions or
That
discussion?
includes the colleges.
What's that? That's on 13. That's just a vote of
includes
Including support statement for the college's priorities.
That and the opioid use and mental health priorities.
Right, that's already in.
Yep, everything that's on here.
Okay. And I guess we should send a letter to the college and ask them to support ours as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right.
With that, we will have a formalized document for presentation to the delegation meeting in October for you.
All right.
Okay.
The ERP, Mr. Administrator.
Commission 9E is the ERP configuration option. We have discussed that before. IT has been meeting with the clerk staff, and I believe we have a plan how to move forward.
That's good. Mr. Clerk, thank you for your cooperation and talking with me about all this stuff.
Yeah,
So,
we've, Tom
out a
has
plan.
been very professional through this process, as well as my staff, and what I have, the email I wrote you and Mr., so the committee knows, the board
Tell
knows.
Lori we said thank you.
Yeah, the, what I'd like to do, and I've yet to see the calendar or the implementation, is move us back to the 2-year section, because my concern is the complexity of, one, the data transfer, the other is the moving of images over, and the training of my staff and the turnaround to do this.
Sure.
If there's a failure on that part, yes, it's my, as a chief financial officer, but it's a reflection on this board. And I don't want a failure in your finance area that I have very great success in right now. So I've asked Tom to kind of, let's work together, move me to later in the year so we can start training in next budget year, budget for the training for all the clerk staff and bring their trainers in or train the trainer and move forward with that. And then as well, the accommodation that they've made in the sense of the data being separated and controlled as he has is acceptable. So yeah, that's my commitment.
We worked hard to get to the final place, and Tom, will you be able to, you'll be able to work through that process?
Yes, sir.
All right, so tell us what's going on.
So we met with the clerk's IT staff, and we met with Tyler, and we had a great conversation, and we determined that we could achieve the constitutional separation of duties by giving full administrative control to the clerk's IT staff. That will put that, so to speak, in a vault. It'll be locked in the database. The county staff will not have access to that other than read through the application. And by us having administrative controls with the clerk's IT staff in the application, that does not jeopardize those constitutional separations of the database, which was good news. Nor does administering the servers or the network that the servers ride on will not create any kind of jeopardy to those controls. So by handing over the database to Mr. Elsterman's IT staff to manage, maintain control, that creates that separation. So that was very good news for us.
And so in the timeline that you presented prior, we'll be able to move HR and utilities over first?
Correct.
And do that transition. We'll be able to watch and learn from that transition, and then we'll be able to onboard the clerk after that.
And we've had conversations with Tyler to Mr. Elsterman's request for additional training. They are going to revise the quote and add additional training. There is training in the quote now for staff, but they're going to put some additional training days in there. So if we need those, we can use as many as we need. They're going to put in plenty that they feel based on their experience with other organizations to make sure that is a smooth transition, that staff is trained well in advance before moving on to these systems.
Well, and give us a good test trial if they don't perform as we expect them to, and as they've told us to, then we can make a transition before we've moved our financial data. So, okay?
Yes.
Commissioners, that's what we've worked on thus far. Mr. Administrator, any comments?
Yeah, the request, Commissioner, is to approve option 1 and moving forward into negotiations with Tyler.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Stone. Any other questions or conversation? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. It'd be a good step forward, Commissioners, in getting us in the proper technology form, I hope. Yeah, especially with some of the legacy software we have today. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. That's all what I have.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk, have the Code Enforcement
Mr.
Board.
Chairman, on 10A, since there's so many individuals, do you mind if I announce each individual that got their appropriate votes?
Sure.
Because
That'd
they're
be great.
all the same period of time. So you had Fred Grimm Jr., Andy Lazar, William Miller, Russell Savangu, and John Welch received the appropriate votes.
All right, we can move the slate.
So moved.
Have a motion to move the slate by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any other questions or conversation? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you. 10B, Mr. Chairman, for Planning and Zoning Commission.
That's correct.
Christopher Langley received the appropriate votes.
So moved.
Have a motion to move Christopher Langley, second by Commissioner Gold, any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, 10C.
Move 10C.
Okay, have a motion to move 10C by Commissioner Bryant.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That
And
passes unanimously.
Move 10D.
And motion to move then to 10D, second by Commissioner Moore. Any questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Notation for action.
I will.
Schedule the two public hearings for consideration of the ordinance amending the Land Development Code. September 19th and Tuesday, October 3rd, each at 10 a.m. or the 19th at 5:30 and Tuesday the 3rd at 10 a.m.
And the reason you have those two options, Commissioner, because if we don't hold the meeting in the evening, I think we need a supermajority to approve this request.
The land development
Okay.
on the medical marijuana.
I'll move for Tuesday, September 19th at 2017 at 5:30, and then Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017 at 10 a.m.
Okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any other question or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. 11B is a scheduled workshop to discuss the 49th Avenue South Phase Preliminary Engineering Report Project and report finalization on Monday, September 25th at 3 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Stone.
I have a couple. I would like to say that Denise and her team have done a great job at the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion, and I believe what we've done earlier is going to continue to enhance and really kind of take some of that pressure off them, so that when those funds are raised, they're not trying to budget their items based on what they're raising. They're going to recognize that the board cares about them, and they're going to be treated appropriately. So, but publicly, thank you for taking it where it was several years ago to the world-class standard that it's on its way to becoming in the future. Secondly, we have $125,490 that are allocated for our wellness program. And so for employees that have participated in this, I just want to commend you, and I want to encourage those that have not used it previously to consider that, especially since we did pass along some insurance cost to our employees. And this will be an excellent way to offset that. Lastly, look before you lock. Recently in the news, there have been 2 toddlers that have been left in hot cars. And I saw on the news last night, a mother was arrested even last night for leaving her children in and going into a location. It's so important. And so the more that we can continue to raise the flag, look before you lock, will save lives. The Early Learning Coalition offers a sticker that you can put on your car. Those of you with toddlers, those of you who know people with toddlers and would like that sticker, we certainly would like to make sure that you get it. And as a liaison for the board with the Early Learning Coalition, I will gladly be the point person for anyone who needs a sticker to help them remember that their children are in the back seat before they lock their car. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stone. Commissioner Moore.
Okay, first I'd like to thank all of our first responders that are across America. They're going out with these different things that have happened across America, and they're responding to these situations. So thank you to each first responder for putting your lives on the line daily for us. And then unfortunately here in Florida, we did lose a couple law enforcement officers that were ambushed, you know, all for the fact that they wore a uniform. So thank you to each person who's willing to go out there daily, selflessly keep us safe. It's so appreciated, and it's so needed, and it's just greatly appreciated. Thank you also to our veterans and our soldiers who fight every day to keep us safe. That is just so appreciated. The other thing, earlier today we had a lot of people on history. I'll just quote George Santayana: if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. So, you know, even the ugly parts of history, we have to teach it so we don't go back through the ugly parts of history again. We need to learn from it so that we don't go on. I'll just let this board know that I've been doing some research. I came across something pretty cool. I don't quite have the documentation to prove the stuff, but there's some people in Marion County's history that did some really cool things, trend-setting back in the 1800s. So I might bring that up next month and kind of bring forward. And then Jared actually did some research, and he found something that I thought was phenomenal that our clerk's office has. This county commission, when it met over at Fort King, he came across the handwritten minutes on the clerk's website from when our commission met about 2 miles from here over at Fort King, at the original Fort King. And I thought that was awesome what Jared found, but you know, there's some stuff there. So next month, I'm gonna hopefully bring back some stuff that will be really, really cool, but I'd like to thank Jared and our clerk for having that information and for working on that for us.
Thank you. Commissioner Gold?
Yes. Got a couple things. One thing I talked to Nick about earlier, I love seeing my picture up on the billboards we got out there. But I don't know if our message is getting out on those, because I know they all look good. But even when I had mine up there, I went by, I looked, and I saw it was a picture, and then the wording kind of threw it off. I don't know if that's where, if we could reallocate or look at reallocating, or maybe directing staff to looking at putting that money into a different area. Because even I look at them a lot now. I saw Commissioner Stone's when I rode by. I said firefighter, and then I saw Commissioner Stone, but I missed the message on it because it seemed like we were picking it. And I'm not just saying because of the pictures, I'm saying it looks like a lot of them are kind of wordy, and we're not really getting our bang for our buck out of it. And we might change it into TV commercials or different type of media or something like that. Now I'm starting to look at them all the time. So I've even seen a couple with the school board that's the same way, where you can't read the message. But real quick, I just wanted to ask Nick, if that's all right, a little bit about this. And what's the, when we're looking at a sign, what are we looking for on a billboard?
So the industry standard for billboards is to keep it to about 7 words or less, give or take, depending on the length of the additional words. So you can go up to about 10 words and still be effective. The difficulty with billboards for affecting any sort of public education is it's a more long-term solution to a public education message. So regardless of the length of your message, you could have some ROI, return on investment issues with billboards.
And that's just it's coming up for the contract there, so I'd like for us to look at that. And even if you don't agree with that, I know when mine came up, I didn't want to be up on the billboard, and I talked about that. Yeah. I didn't want to be up there, and I was told at the time by staff that we had to do it, but then I actually confirmed that it didn't. But even if we don't, just the message, but I would like to see us, what would be a better, or even maybe you can do some research to find what would be a better alternative than that.
There are some options as far as what other governments do for public service announcements. So some other things we could look at potentially in the movie theaters. There are public service announcement opportunities there. And we could look at social media specifically for the Crime Prevention Fund. It would just depend on what the will of the board is.
And the radio ones work too. I'm sorry. The radio ones work because I've had people calling me and telling me about it, which only took me 2 takes, which is rare. So.
And it is certainly an option for us to, if the board wanted us to look at expanding budgets for other existing Crime Prevention Fund mechanisms.
Commissioner,
I just want to point out, you mentioned, because back 1 month I was supposed to be up there, and there's arson prevention, so I asked fire rescue if they minded having one of our fire rescue guys go on there. So one of our fire rescue guys was on the board. So for the new commissioners, if you don't want to be on there, you can switch it to whoever. Like if it's theft that month, you might put a deputy, or you're allowed to, because you're the commissioner, so you're allowed to exert your leadership in that. But the thing is I agree, those billboards, I don't know what effectiveness there is, because the radio ads, you do hear stuff back, but the billboards, other than saying, hey, I saw Commissioner so-and-so on a billboard, I don't hear back, hey, I remembered not to lock my kid in the car, or I remembered, to turn off the appliances before leaving the house, or whatever that message is that month. You don't hear that back, except for from the radio ad. So I agree, we need to find something much more effective, maybe.
So
think-
when, okay.
Well, I mean, I think it all depends on the messaging. I know
That's
that
true.
when my texting one was out,
Yeah.
I actually got a lot of feedback on that one.
Well,
And, I mean, I think
Yeah.
it just really depends on what the message is and how short and sweet and big and bold you can make it, along
It's
with whatever
short and
picture
sweet.
you decide.
Yeah, I mean, to say that billboards don't work is, I mean, that's obviously
well, I'm not saying
true.
they don't work, but I'm
So-
saying just as far as the feedback I get much more from the radio side than the billboard side.
Well, I
You know,
understand
when I
that, but
hear
you're, okay.
But still,
No,
I mean,
no,
obviously,
no,
obviously,
we can't
obviously
agree with each
billboards
other.
work.
No,
I mean,
Yeah.
it's obvious that in the advertisement, you know, and that's why when we put together the program, you know, originally when we took back the crime prevention fund, you know, that's why it's got an across media, you know, that's why the whole point is to get it across multiple phases of media. It's on the television, it's on the radio, it's in the billboard. Your likelihood of getting that message and then getting it in multiple different ways was the whole point.
And even with that, my comment on it, even if we're gonna do the billboards or continue with them,
Yeah.
evaluate the drive-bys or the flybys. There's 2 of them that I see that you can sit, evaluate the message and see if we want the message out there. Just the message, you know, something that, it's branded, click it or ticket, you know, lock your cars, you know, the one now with, you know, check before you
And I
lock,
don't
whatever
mind
it is.
working on some of those that
Just
are.
even if we have to reduce, I think the images are taking away from it, and that's in everything. If you look at billboard, you want that message right there.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like to see is, and make sure, I don't know if we need to have a consensus to.
Well, I
correct-
think, I mean, again,
Yeah.
Commissioner Gold, I appreciate your comment, but that's not the case in every single situation. And, you know, I mean, if you want to do that on yours, have at it. But the part of the problem that we don't have a real consistency is that when we went through this first process, our board decided to do it like 6 and 6 with the sheriff's office. So if we want to change that, if we want to have some messages that run consistently, that are a little bit different in the campaign for a year, we can come back and reevaluate how we do the messaging as well, and get consensus with the sheriff to do something a little bit different.
Well, I'm just asking for a consensus that we evaluate, either we do it because the contract's coming up, if we want to direct the staff to do that, or if we evaluate the way they are done in general. And I mean, I've skated around it. Personally, I don't like our pictures up on it. I think it's wrong, but that's why I was doing this as well as I could. I don't think that, you know, I think we're taking away from our message up there. If you've got them up there and they say, you know, check before you lock, what is it? I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Look before you
Look
lock.
before you lock. Something there that's got a bold message, but not something that's making you wonder. And I had the same thing when the sheriff did it too. Because I think it was the sheriff and it had a white dog on it. I looked at the picture and I was like, okay, what was the message? And you're kind of taking away from it to a point. And that's the whole thing is, let's look at this
Right,
and do it.
So you can have that opinion, and you can also have the opinion that together with the sheriff's office and then local leaders, you know, that we're out there supporting these causes and trying to use our ability as local leaders to say, hey, these are important messages. Our community should get behind them. And we get, quite frankly, I think we get good results from the program we've had.
No, and the
So-
audio ones where
And
people
I understand
hear
maybe
it.
you just don't like the images, that's fine. You don't have
Yeah.
to do it, but I don't think you know, quite frankly, you should advocate to get rid of them all.
No, I'm not, that's not what I just said. I said,
So.
I just don't like the way that they're being presented right now.
Maybe moving forward, what we could do for this next year, the upcoming year, is have Nick go ahead and do one-on-ones with everybody as to what the media plan is for the next year. And then if there's something that someone sees that they think that could be done a little differently that might have a better outcome, then we could bring it back to the board and have a discussion about it.
Well, we're coming up to the
media
renewal
plan
of the
comes up
contract.
soon here, right?
September
When is it?
30th.
End of
Right, so
September, I
we've got
believe.
time in between now and then for him to bring forth the plan that we have for the upcoming year and for everybody to take a look at, and if there's something that someone wants to change.
And I think
we've
that's what
got-
I was asking for
Yeah.
in the beginning, yeah.
I got
So,
this.
I got it. Good deal.
And we can take a look at it at our meeting in September.
Right, and we could certainly bring an ROI analysis for each type of medium that we're using. To get, it won't be perfect, obviously, for the billboards, but we can have an analysis of the impressions that we're receiving on those and relate that to some industry standards and best practices.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think we can expand the platforms we are using. If you want it to be in the movie theater too, I think we can look at the cost. We did that in the past, and then we stopped for some reason.
All right. I had two other real quick things. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things, we're talking a lot in this budget cycle about supporting public safety. I just want to make sure that we also realize that we have to support our other employees, because public safety is one small part of it, and I've done it for 30 years, but it wasn't supported if we didn't support our employees who take care of it. Like always, I can't get it out of my head anymore after Commissioner Stone said we got to have our toilets when we flush them, they've got to flush. I think we're looking now at grass. People are calling us and complaining about the grass being more high than worrying about an ambulance right now. It kind of goes what is, but that's one of my main things too, is I want to support all our employees through this budget cycle, and know that we've got a large department, a lot of people here that do a lot of great things, and our training that we're doing for the management side, I hope that everybody's really in depth into the training and doing the books that we're getting, because a lot of it does support making sure that we have a good workforce. And then finally, on the good note, I wanted to say this is very different for me doing this. I'm used to a system of where we lock up in a room and argue it out and whatever it out until we come out the last person standing wins. But after seeing Commissioner Bryan up there in the boxing, I don't want that. I think he'd whip me. So I enjoy this. I think that everybody's there, and sometimes I know people say, oh, it looked like you got upset with one of the other commissioners or y'all were brawling out. We can't talk because of sunshine, which is the craziest, weirdest thing I've ever been in my life, where we just can't have a discussion. But whenever we leave here, everybody's very cordial. We joke with each other, and everybody's been, super nice. So I appreciate that, and just wanted to put that out there. I'm not going to agree with every one of y'all. And if we did, there would be a problem if we all were.
Hey, you can't be all like me, because you'd be perfect.
Yeah, we did agree on something today. That's
Hey, we did
weird.
Agree, yes.
I know. That's the
I've even
solar
agreed
eclipse
with
was
Commissioner
yesterday.
Zalk on
That's why.
occasion, which is amazing.
It must have been the moon moving.
Yeah.
But that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
All right, Commissioner Bryan.
No, and I just want to thank you and Commissioner Stone. You've both been a great addition to the commission, and you're doing a great job. So, and we appreciate it. And as you said, it wouldn't be good if we all always had the same opinions. I think through the debate that we go through and the process that we go through, that's how we come up with some of the best solutions in the state of Florida. So you're both doing a great job, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And I've just got something very, very small to say today. So I'm going to say happy birthday to my little Macy Gale, my little granddaughter. She is 1 today, and we are all so blessed that she is here. She is definitely a blessing from up above, and I know her mommy and daddy are thankful she's here. They went through a lot for her to be here, and anyway, happy birthday, Macy Gale.
All right, commissioners, and for me, I'm just I'm excited about our community. This morning goes to echo the kind of where again we may not all agree. We don't all agree on this board. People in our community may not all agree on specific issues, but we can come and we can have a civil discourse about those things. And it makes me proud to be in Marion County, where we can rise above the national conditions and those things that are maybe on far sides of the spectrum, and we can come in with the majority of common sense people and make great decisions, have great conversations, and then stand united as Americans. And it makes me really proud to be a part of this team and this leadership here. So with that, commissioners, any other comments, or we're good? All right, well, let's move on to the next section of our public comment. We'll open that up for 2 minutes apiece as well, and everyone that signed up has already spoken, so we'll open it up again. You can come on down. Give your name and address for the record, please.
Bruce Borders, 21535 South 441, High Springs, Florida. 516, Brantford, Florida. My name is Bruce Borders. I'm standing united as Americans. And kind of disappointed. I drove 100 miles to get here one way, and you cut us off. And usually...
I didn't cut anybody off.
Well,
everybody that came in and signed up, I let speak, and you're speaking now, so...
Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I go back 8 generations in the same place on my mama's side. And I also... I wasn't here 160 years ago. You wasn't here 160 years ago. But my family fought for the South, the Confederates. I'm the only one left, the only one left that's done every battle, starting at the Gator Bowl all the way up to now at Alusty. And I do medieval all. But my main thing is there that, like they said before there, all these people that's causing all the trouble, they're not even from around here. They don't even live here, you know? And they're coming in here causing trouble. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're red, yellow, brown, black, or white, polka dot or striped, you got to get along. So anyway, we got to get along together. And also, y'all know I've got the only black Confederate unit in the United States. My life, I won't even let them go nowhere so they won't get hurt. But freedom of speech is everything. And anyway, it's not right for people to come in here. And you know who? I didn't like the President of the United States we had, but he was the president. I don't agree with everything Trump does, but he's our president. You know who's starting all this? They talking about terrorists. They should not let this man in the United States of America. His name is George Soros. Y'all heard of him? George Soros. And he's behind all this. After they get through with our monuments and stuff, they're going to our churches. The churches across our Christians and stuff like that. But thank you for your comment. And the last thing there, the Bible says, honor your father and your mother. Did you hear what I said? Honor your father and your mother. So that's to honor your heritage and your family. And the last thing there, in the book, last book of the Bible, Revelations, it tells you everything that is happening and is going to happen, you know. And it's hitting it on the head. And see that flag right up there? That flag right there, that American flag? I served under that flag. I'm a U.S. soldier, Vietnam veteran, and I decided there. And they got people coming in there in the military, and they serve like get out of boot camp. They get out on a medical charge. They get out on being crazy. I'm crazier than they are, you know. But it's not right. They're making more money than they. But the last thing there, I want to say, that monument needs to stay over there in Veteran Park because they were veterans. They were Americans too. And we've got the best. I want you to write this down right here. We got the best veteran service officer in the world. Did you hear what I said? In the world. And y'all know, when it comes to our fire and rescue, law enforcement, and military, I don't play around. And I had 5 or 7 different places that I could have been, you know. And you know where I'm going to be on Veterans Day? Where do you think I'm going to be, preacher?
Veterans Park.
There you go. But hey, you should be blessed to have somebody like our great veteran service officer, Jeffrey Askew. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I got more black friends than I do whites. And that's not right. These people coming in our community and taking over and they're not even from there, and they're making more money than y'all are. Probably making more, sir, the doctor here, you know? But they're getting paid $25 an hour to get out there and act stupid.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you for everything you do. And I want to thank you, Doctor, Miss Kathy Bryant, David Moore, and Michelle Stone, and her husband, too. Them are my sponsors. That's how I get from A to B back to point A. But Jeffrey, ask you, if I get in a problem up here, that man right there, David Moore's helped me, you know, besides up there, you know. But, hey, I'm proud to be American, and what the last thing when they finish taking God out of our country, we are through. It's over. Have a good day, and thank you for letting us speak.
Thank you. Mr. Nextel.
God bless you. Roger Nechtel again. I received the other day the tentative budget for next year. I noticed that there was a hefty rise in the general fund.
Yes, sir.
And the thing at the bottom that I probably never seen before because I'm just ignorant, but it says the assessor will automatically have a 2% increase in your taxes each year. Is that a new thing, or has that been there before?
That's not an automatic. That's just what we were using for planning and for future forecasting. We are expecting that there's that 2%. That's the average.
Yeah.
This year, I think it was actually a little more than that. Correct, Mr. Elsperman? Yeah.
So is that a new thing or
That's
not?
appreciation, though. Is that what you're talking about?
They've had that
You're
previous
talking
years?
about the 5-year plan, Mr. Nechtel, where we were
Talking
trying
about
to
where
look
it
at
says
forecasting?
the assessor will assess you about 2% each year. That's what it says on the square and at the bottom of the cover sheet.
I don't
know what he's talking about.
Probably get it on the
Okay.
trim notice.
Because
It's in the trim notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the cover sheet for the trim.
Yeah.
And I'm not against that, but if we had that 10 years ago, it would have been a different world today.
Yeah.
There's no automatic.
There's no automatics.
And also, in another square next to it on the right, it says that non-residents, non-homesteaded residents will pay a 10% increase in their taxes.
They could be up to.
Oh, up to, because I know we used to
Maximum.
have that. I thought they eliminated that. I'm not saying it should be eliminated. I'm just saying what I'm reading.
I think on commercial properties, they can't go up more than 10%, right? So non-ad valorem, I'll have to go back and reread that cover page, but I believe that's the maximum limit. And it's the same thing, homesteaded properties can't go up above
3%.
3%.
That's how Save Our Homes.
And max, and then there's another rate of 1.9 or 1.8 as well.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying that, with the sales tax rise and all these other rises, for some reason you've decided the general fund to have a nice rise. To me, the fire and rescue, sheriff's department, and every county employee should be seeing a substantial raise this year. Well, where is the money going?
Well, the general fund, I can get Michael to give you a better sheet on all of the pressures that bring it up to, what is it, 3.4? That was on the millage rate or the trim notice. But the vast majority of that is the contract with fire rescue. So all of the paramedics are paid, that are on the ambulances, are paid out of the general fund, as well as what the sheriff is asking for in the general fund on the jail side and the bailiff side and the regular. Then there's also a 3% raise in there for the constitutional officers as well as the county departments.
So that's coming out of the general fund now?
Correct.
Okay. Because, we don't know, we're not going to be exempt from the so-called resistance that's taken over this country. So we really have to have some reserve money for the fire and rescue and the sheriff's department, because we don't know what we're going to see in the next 12 months.
Thank you, sir.
I pray that it's nothing, but you never know.
Us too.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Yes, sir. Come on down.
This is Jim Castleman, 3920 Southeast 110th Street in Bellevue, Florida again. I'm not going to talk on the Confederacy. No, I wanted to make mention that when the gentleman was talking about sidewalks in this county, I ride up and down Marion County quite a bit since I work for Lockheed Martin. And it scares the death out of me whenever I see these people with these powered wheelchairs trying to ride on Marion County and 17th Street with no sidewalk. And, you know, and the bicyclists, and they'll try and, I mean, that road has a turn lane in the middle to go either direction. They almost have to ride down the middle of the highway in order to go down there at a halfway safe, because the traffic on that road is not conducive for even a wheelchair or anything else, and there's no sidewalks. I mean, if y'all could, please, see if you could do something about putting some sidewalks on that road. And the bicyclists love to use 110th Street Road, which runs from C-25 there at Baseline, all the way down through to Candler also. The bicyclists love to use that one, and you'll get groups of 10 and 12 of them at one time going down there. And it's, in places it's 35 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, and then up to 50 miles an hour in one spot, I do believe, where it crosses 92nd, the new road, 92nd Loop. They love to use that going down there, but it's pretty dangerous too. It's only two-lane road, and most people driving cars don't realize that they're supposed to share the highway with bicyclists. They think that they own the road, and one day we're going to have a major catastrophe due to the lack of sidewalks. The sidewalks is important in this county, and I'd appreciate it if y'all could see what you can do for us. Thank you so much.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Munoz?
Henry Munoz, 495 Marion Oaks Boulevard. I like what you said this morning concerning our government, but the thing about these protesters is the issue is not the issue, according to Saul Alinsky. The real issue is to create division, and that's it, all right? And then I noticed that all of a sudden we have to be checked out when we come in here. When for over, for the longest that I've been coming here, over 3 years, never any such checkout. And we stand up here and we start this meeting asking our Lord Jesus Christ to protect us. And I remember he said in Luke 22, verse 36b, he who has no sword, sell his cloak, his garment, whatever, and get one. And you're asking us to come in here disarmed because you're worried about a bunch of people that might come in here, and you only have him and maybe somebody else to protect all of us, and all of a sudden, all we've done is become aggressive targets. And that's not proper. That's not proper. And if you're saying this is a state issue ordinance, well, there's such a thing as called nullification. If we can nullify what the federal government comes and puts by, the county can also say, no, we will not do this in this county. Because, like I stated to you, the best protection you have is for you guys to be armed and not become targets. And if it's something that you guys need to take to the state legislature, take it. Take it there. But stop making everybody a target in a public forum. That's the whole thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Virginia Gale, 14715 Southwest 39th Circle,
Ocala, Florida, 34473. Commissioners, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning to my brothers and sisters out there. I'm sorry I didn't get to speak earlier this morning when the place were more crowded, because this issue of dividing our country, and I'm saying our country because I won't tell you my age at this time, but I've been an American citizen since I was 22 years old. And I had to study the history for 6 weeks. It was monetary to get my citizenship as an American citizen. And I am proud to be an American citizen. But I'm watching my country being torn apart. And if we just have love in our heart for everyone, our country wouldn't get to this. This flag and this thing, and we have to understand, and if we be conscious of the fact that to some American, that flag meant that their relatives got fought in the Confederacy and they died. We have to understand that. But then on the other sense, we have to understand what the flag represents to people of color. So, and that issue was dying down, and all of a sudden, at the election for president, they went to the grave and dig that hate right back up. And we have to work together very hard and pray to make sure that hate don't overtake us. If we don't remember history, we are doomed to repeat it. And that's what we don't want to do. Because we're seeing the officers out there, they are sacrificing their lives to keep us safe. And yet they are being killed all because of the uniform they wear. They forget that these officers and first responders are human beings. They are wives, they are mothers, they are brothers, they are fathers. And when you kill them, you leave, those children are growing up without a mother or a father. We have to get together as people, as American, because American is neither black nor white. We are all American. Yes. And we have to get together as American to stop the hate, and it begins in the home. We have to start doing that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just so y'all know, she's my constituent.
Anyone else? All right, come on down.
Greg Jenkins, 5660 Northeast 139th Court, Silver Springs. I came here today to say thank you to Ms. Bryant, Mr. Zalek, and Mr. Moore, who in the new Veterans Facility, we have a shower and shave opportunity for our veterans. Thank you. I salute all three of you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome to the new members. I'm a 6th generation United States military veteran, 5th generation law enforcement. I spoke with some community leaders yesterday, and we're going to go outside of this facility and have town halls with regard to our community. And the people within our community will participate and no outsiders. And we're going to come back to you with a proposal from a large voice within our community as to what we have found that we can do to squash this particular issue. Just so you know, I know that your rules govern the way that you have to do things, and people are frustrated that they're restricted to how long they can speak. We're going to create a forum in which they can speak and say what they need to say without the restrictions. You're governed by sunshine law or whatever Mr. Gold was speaking of. We just need to come together in a place where no one's threatened, no one's scared, everybody gets to speak, and everybody gets to listen. And so that's what we're trying to do. Some people couldn't show up today because of prior obligations, but we're going to try to do it as a community outside and then come back not with a problem, but with a solution to present to the Board of County Commissioners, and hopefully we can get this resolved and cut it off at the pass. We all know what the problems are, but nobody can seem to figure out the solution. Every time we do, we have another problem. So let's just try to come together. Thank you for everything you do. Ms. Bryant, I have a newfound respect for you, ma'am. I spent an hour in a dentist chair learning all about you.
I guess you must have seen my mom.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but yes. So I now know who Kathy Bryant is from birth. And I have a newfound respect. Newfound respect. She didn't know who I was, but we had a very good conversation.
Is that a new campaign technique?
Yeah.
Hold them down.
When you want to know about your county commissioner, folks, just talk to their mama. They'll tell you.
Not like you're going to argue with her.
No, I was in a chair.
And that means she was cleaning your teeth.
She was the boss. She was the boss. So anyways, thank you very much, people, for what you do. Hopefully we can get something moving quickly and get back with y'all with a solution.
All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll be in recess till 2 o'clock.
I'm scared of anything.